Hello and welcome. I am Antiderivative Jill, and this is Indefinite Lunch in Infinite Combinations, number 26. Today I'm joined with Pop Culture Curator and Scotty R37 to review the second pilot for Star Trek, Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Peace and long life.
Good to see everyone. Hello, welcome to everybody in the chat.
Yes, welcome to everybody in the chat. Good idea.
Except for you, Mega Cropper. We'll get here when we get here. We're like wizards.
Yeah.
I kid. Thank you for everyone for holding out for the tardiness. I was asleep. I apologize.
No, it wasn't you, it was me. I wanted coffee. Hello in the chat to Snortopoopus Cuber and Pop Culture Curator, who's also on the panel. Mega Cropper says, "Let's get ready to rumble, peeps. Took me till Harry Mudd to get into the original series after not seeing it from childhood. A classic series, but Deep Space Nine is the greatest of all time." And hello.
I feel like Deep Space Nine is the second time I fell in love. Like the first time and it defined me was the original series, but Deep Space Nine rekindled that love.
Wow. Yeah. I put those two at the top too. And hello to Bird of Prey 5, Kapla.
Kapla!
And hello to Pleasant Valley Picker. He can't stay long. He has to get ready for work. And hello to Raymond Feliciano.
Ahoy. Everyone is a Frasier today.
Yeah,
hello everyone.
If you have a wrench, you can throw your link in the chat if you like. And if you want a wrench, just ask for one if you have a channel. And hello to Hungry for Ben Grimm to catch a break.
Good to see you, Hungry.
Does he have a hard time with that? I don't know much about the Fantastic Four.
I've heard of it.
So, thank you for joining me today, Pop Culture Curator. I'd like to remind everyone to make sure you're subscribed to Pop Culture Curator. We just started an animated series review show to go along with this one, which we'll have every Monday at 7 p.m. Central.
And last night's was a great episode.
Thanks
for having me aboard.
Yes, yesterday we covered Yesteryear. A fantastic episode. Thank you all for being there.
Yeah. And next week's is something about a planet is missing.
One of our planets is missing.
Oh, yes.
And also remember to subscribe to the Phantasmagorium show by Scotty R37 and his friends. Right now they're working through the magic of the Tarantino movies. And you don't want to miss tomorrow's show because he and Kat are discussing The Hateful Eight.
Well, and also I would be remiss if you didn't go to I always say Dolphin King, but I think it's King of Dolphins.
Yeah, King Dolphin
TV.
So he does amazing interviews of all sorts of creators and inventors and everything, pilots and YouTubers and authors and comic book drawers. I don't know, everything.
Tracers. No, I mean inkers.
Inkers. Every step in that process, I'm sure, would be welcome on that show.
But you're discussing an overview of Deep Space Nine on Wednesday night.
Right. Tomorrow, King Dolphin and I will be talking about Deep Space Nine. Friends and Frenemies is the title. You get to guess who we're going to be talking about. And for today's episode and all of the original series episodes, for reference to the production of them, all the facts that I shared today comes from Star Trek 365, the original series by Paula M. Block and Terry J. Erdman. And the idea to use this particular text as a source comes from my good friend Raquel, or R.M. Briggs, who is a part of the Clobberin Times channel. So you should all subscribe to Clobberin Times and also read Raquel's amazing science fiction short stories. So I'll be putting that link in the chat and just right now. You know what? I need to grab that. Give me just a moment here. I need to find it. Where is it? Damn it.
You mean you don't have it just in a holster?
Yeah, I usually do, but
Well,
now that I'm here, I got it now.
there we go. Bingo.
Bird Prey 5 says DS9 versus TOS, a battle for the best.
It's a true story, but the best thing that you can possibly do to reconcile those two sides of the battle is definitely watch Trials and Tribulations.
That's right. It's a great marriage of the two, and it does a wonderful job. Yeah. And Raymond reminds us to come to King Dolphin TV for our DS9 discussion.
You know, I'm going to call in sick for my podcast to
No, don't do that.
Sorry, Kat. I
No,
got Deep Space Nine to watch.
actually, you can. Actually, you can't. You don't. Well, no, you have to prepare for your show. Don't worry about us. You can watch the replay. Anyway, today we review the second pilot for Star Trek called Where No Man Has Gone Before. Getting a second pilot for TV shows is very rare, so it's incredible and wonderful that NBC did this. And Scotty was absolutely right to redirect us to this episode, so thank you for correcting my error. And from now on,
it is a personal preference as in terms of release versus production, and so there are some people who say you should follow the release as opposed to the production. But I just find the transition jarring, and with these uniforms in this episode, it makes it a little less.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that following it in production order gives a clearer picture to the history of Star Trek.
Well, and also, like, half the crew dies in this episode. So even if you get it, like, and there is one crewman that I am going to just go bug nuts over, two actually, but only one of them dies. And it's just like having a new crew or a fresher crew on the Man Trap is, I think it makes sense production wise. They obviously went and restocked, restaffed, and did everything. Like the Enterprise is in bad shape at the end of this episode.
Yeah. And they traded out some crewmen after this one.
Yes, and also a few modifications to the ship. This is I think this is the last time we get the appearance of the gooseneck lamps.
Yes, I did see that. There are some things from the cage, some elements, stage elements that come from the cage to this episode. And with Jeffrey Hunter refusing to play Captain Pike again, Gene had to go back to the drawing board to create Captain Kirk, which I'm very thankful for.
As am I.
More specifically, the book here says that William Shatner replaced him, bringing to the newly created character Captain Kirk an energetic intensity that emphasized the physical nature of the man in the captain's chair. And right from the start, James T. Kirk's willingness to resolve a bad situation with his fists, more often than not ripping his shirt in the process, made him a perfect action icon for the era.
I agree. This episode gave the world like William Shatner. And as a Canadian, you're welcome.
Thank you.
No, cheers.
And this book goes on with other details about the ship, other members of the crew, and some props. So I think over the course of these reviews, I'll add some of those things here and there as I feel like it. But for now, the main thing I want to focus on, I actually want to read directly from the book about Kirk, because I think this is straight from the Bible about how Kirk was described. Played by William Shatner, Kirk is about 34, an Academy graduate, rank of Starship Captain. A shorthand sketch of him might be a space-age Captain Horatio Hornblower, constantly on trial with himself, a strong, complex personality. With the starship out of communication with Earth and Starfleet bases for long periods of time, a starship captain has unusually broad powers over the lives and welfare of his crew, as well as over Earth people and activities encountered during these voyages. Kirk feels these responsibilities strongly and is fully capable of letting the worry and frustration lead him into error. He is also capable of fatigue and inclined to push himself beyond human limits, then condemn himself because he is not superhuman. The crew respects him, some almost to the point of adoration. At the same time, no senior officer aboard is fearful of using his own intelligence in questioning Kirk's orders, and can themselves be strongly articulate up to the point where Kirk signifies his decision has been made. Our captain is a veteran of hundreds of planet landings and space emergencies. He has a broad and highly mature perspective on command, fellow crewmen, and even on alien life customs. However strange and repugnant they seem when measured against Earth standards. Aboard ship, Captain Kirk has only a few opportunities for anything approaching friendship. One exception is Mr. Spock, a strange friendship based on logic, high mutual respect, and Spock's strong Vulcan loyalty to his commander, to a commander. Another is with the ship's surgeon, Dr. McCoy, who has a legitimate professional need to constantly be aware of the state of the captain's mind and emotions. But on shore leave, away from the confines of self imposed discipline, Jim Kirk is likely to play pretty hard, almost compulsively so. He is, in short, a strong man forced by the requirements of his ship and career into the often lonely role of command, even lonelier because starship command is the most difficult and demanding task of the century. From the Star Trek's Writer's Guide, 3rd Revision, dated April 17th, 1967.
That's amazing. And it's absolutely a great summary of the character. And yeah, I think played with relaxed aplomb by Bill. I really appreciate him, and I was wondering as to whether or not Jeffrey Hunter would have been able to play this same. Like, if we put Captain Pike in this episode, is it the same? And no, I think there's more boyish charm to James.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. Yes. Captain Kirk is the energy that the show needed.
Well, and also it
Mm.
is something at the beginning of The Cage. You see Captain Pike respond to the death of crew members,
Yes.
and he's mournful and whatnot. I think that the difference between this pilot and that pilot is that something that defined Pike so obviously, like blatantly in the pilot episode, was never depicted on screen, whereas you get to see Captain Kirk versus his best friend.
Yeah, well, yeah, Kirk isn't questioning whether or not he wants to be in command like Pike was.
But you get to see the weight of command, and it is even questioned by Dr. Daner at one point. And you do see, you know what? This job is fucking hard, yo. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to swear. And I have to take all of the uh, information from my science officer to maintain the safety of this vessel.
I'm guessing,
Yes.
in my opinion, maybe perhaps Kirk was also supposed to play a younger version of the captain because Kirk looked younger. Pike, they even had the fake gray in his hair. I think they were trying to make Pike look like he was in his 40s or 50s.
Sure.
That could be.
Maybe that's the reason why his character had more baggage. I want to interject something. Is Bob Justman,
Please.
who worked with Shatner, apparently he worked with him in The Outer Limits, an episode
Hmm.
called Cold Hands, Warm Heart. And Bob said Bill co-starred with Geraldine Brooks in that episode. He played an astronaut who visited the planet Venus in a planet colonization program titled Planet Vulcan, a name that would later become familiar to Star Trek fans. He said that was the first time I had ever worked with Bill, and it was a rewarding experience. He was already a well-respected actor within the filmmaking community. I liked him a lot and found him to be enthusiastic, good-humored, and hardworking. We never had to wait for him when he was called to the set for a shot, and he gave his all to make the episode as good as it could be. So when I heard that Bill would be the new Captain of the Enterprise, I was pleased. I knew he would bring a much needed energy to the role, an energy we hadn't gotten from Jeff Hunter. So yeah, that pretty much confirms it. Even from them at the time, they knew that he had that charisma and humor that I think that was lacking with maybe not so much Jeffrey Hunter, but maybe Jeffrey Hunter's character. So I think it was their opportunity to rework the character. And also in casting, I wanted to bring this up is oddly enough, as late as a month prior to filming Shatner in his role as the new captain of the Enterprise, the character's name was still up for grabs. Roddenberry came up with some ideas and invited suggestions from his associates. Then he sent a quote shortlist to researcher Kellum DeForest's office and asked for the 16 possibilities to be checked out and cleared for use in the show. The name Kirk was next to last, followed by the penciled-in name North. So, according to the note from Gene Roddenberry's office, it said the following are the names we are considering for the captain in Star Trek. I would appreciate your checking them out for any clearance problem or conflict. So the names were January, Flag, Flagg, Drake, Christopher, Thorpe, Richard, Patrick, Rainter. It's kind of hard to read that one. Boone, Hudson, Kimber, Hamilton, Hannibal, Neville, Kirk, and then North.
Wow. I think the only one that I've ever heard of was Captain Neville. Is that I heard that was an alternative. I'm interested that he didn't go back and try and repurpose Robert April.
Yeah, Robert April, I think, was changed to Pike. Well, Pike because they wanted a stronger name.
Yeah.
More sharp
Well, then
name.
maybe that's why it was abandoned.
But Robert April does exist in the Star Trek universe as the first captain of the Enterprise.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll get there when we get to the animated series episode, won't you?
Yeah, we will.
I agree with Hungry Boy in this statement here too as well.
Hunter felt quite 1950s stoic, whereas the Shat felt 60s, groovy and fresh. So here we have the very first captain's log as the start of this episode. We learned that the Valiant is sending out just a distress signal, but the hard part about that is that the Valiant's been missing for 200 years. So they're going to figure out why the Valiant was at the edge of the galaxy and what destroyed it. And Captain Kirk is introduced playing 3D chess with Spock, already showing early on his high intelligence to even be any kind of challenge for Spock.
And you see that look on Spock's face. They still haven't gotten the character quite down.
Not quite, but they did tone down his emotions just a little bit in this episode from the cage.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. He's very charming.
Yes. One thing that's odd in this scene, is fitting maybe, is that Spock references an ancestor having married human. Of course, we know now Spock is half human, so that the ancestor he was referencing here was his own father.
Mother, actually. The ancestor who married a human woman. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, of course I am.
Of course.
And hello to the panel. Welcome, PvP. Oh, I thought you were getting ready for work. It's great to see you.
Are you seeing me? Oh, there I am.
Hello, PvP.
Delay. Yeah, I just thought I'd pop in for maybe 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, I can't stay long. I don't work till 11 this morning, though, so it's not quite 10 here yet, so.
Well, we appreciate any cameos. If you want to give your short feelings about this episode.
I gotta adjust my sound, Jill.
Yeah, we're going to go over all of it, but if you want to give your overall
is that good
thoughts
now?
about it. Yeah, I don't know, you sound the same. It sounds
we can hear you. We hear you.
I had it through my speakers and I forgot to put it through my headphones, so But I've got it through the headphones now, so there should not be any echo or anything like that. So
Great.
You're good as gold.
yeah, I decided to pop in for a few minutes since I do enjoy this episode quite a bit. So
Something that stood out for me. I mean, well, I guess as a pun, is Spock's ears. I know that at some point in the series they start taping them back. He started putting like double stick tape inside behind the ears to stick them closer to the head so they wouldn't stick out. I think this may have been before that, but I could
that
be
makes
wrong.
sense.
That's a good guess. It probably was this early on.
Or yeah, because you can see they really hadn't gotten the ears or the eyebrows down quite yet.
no, the eyebrows especially.
Right, and the skin tone, he's green here, so you can see we'll all see they change that later on.
It's getting closer to the Spock we all know, but they haven't got it there. Yeah, especially those eyebrows. They're just a little too pointy.
Too severe.
Yeah, well, at least they're less
And bushy.
And
Right.
they're not as bushy as they were in the cage.
Right.
Snortopithus Huber says, useless personal trivia alert. I stole the Drake name from my captain in the FASA Star Trek role-playing game in the 1980s and reused it for his grandson in a Decipher Star Trek RPG.
That's crazy
Wow.
cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. So Drake is not a bad name. I think that's a name of a character in Blake 7, but I still haven't watched. It's on my list.
Well, and Neville was a name from I Am Legend. That's where I recognized it from. It's
Oh yeah, good call.
yeah, from Richard Matheson's I Am Legend,
Yes.
which was big at the time, actually.
And Hungry Boy does not miss the Swiss Alps skiing sweaters that they wear in this episode.
Yeah, they were
No, but
bundled
they
up for him.
They are reminiscent. Again, this is one of the things that I praised during The Cage, is that I like that they had these sort of with the high collars, but when they had the away team jackets from The Cage, they kind of looked like prototypes for the Wrath of Khan uniforms. They don't do the overcoats for away team missions here, I guess because they're going to a known location. But these, again, part of the reason why I wanted to watch this one after The Cage is just sort of the continuity of the uniform.
Yeah, they still haven't got the collars figured out.
And the
yet.
colors are a little different too when we get to
Colors are off, yes, and they love zippers.
that. And Pleasant Valley Picker, I know we don't have you for too long, so I was wondering if you had anything particular you'd like to share about this episode, or
Let's see. Gosh. Yeah, I haven't had a lot of time to think about it because I didn't realize you were going on until about 40 minutes ago or whatever.
Well, if not, that's okay. I can continue.
I guess one interesting
refreshing.
thing that Scotty mentioned is that there's no away team jackets anymore from this point on, pretty much in the series. I think maybe that had to do with just a budgetary concern, though. It's like, why make extra costuming if we really don't need to? So I think they just basically, other than Shirt's green shirt that he started to wear more and more often as the series went on, but there weren't too many varieties of personnel clothing, really.
So do you guys agree that, do you think, in your opinion, he started wearing the green shirt because he was gaining weight?
I really don't know. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
No,
or if
I've
it's
heard
just-
people say that, but I hadn't really noticed. But I thought it was more like a casual type uniform, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Well, I don't want to engage in apocrypha, but it's like it's one of those things that people say that it's because Bill was gaining weight that they introduced that. That's not true because it's something that existed relatively early on. Like there were variants, even in oh heavens, I always forget this episode, the name of it.
there was the one with the two Kirks.
That's the one, but that's different than the wraparound that you see in Trouble with Tribbles. And Trouble with Tribbles is a second season episode. It's a possibility, but I don't really, I don't see much of a weight fluctuation.
Well, there's Doomsday Machine too, right? Where you wear the green tunic or whatever.
Yep.
You want to call it?
With the wraparound waistband.
He didn't look overly overweight in that episode, as far as I can tell. So.
I don't think he looks, sort of pudgier until we get to season 3. And in season 3, he never wears it.
Yeah, well, in season 3 too. I mean, some of the other casts were starting to look a little older too, right? Like Scotty comes to mind. He was, Doohan was beginning to show his age. I thought in season 3 a bit more.
That's why I was asking you, Jill, about it. If since you watched and binged, pretty much you binged it.
Yeah, I
If
did. I
you
binged
noticed,
it back to
right?
back, and it didn't really bother me, and until I got to the movies. The
That's what I
movies
was.
showed
That's
the
what I was wondering.
age.
That's what I was wondering. What do you think about the jump in age between the third season and the motion picture? Did
Yeah,
it
that was different.
kind of
Definitely
jarring there?
was.
Especially, I guess McCoy,
Yeah.
because he's the one that seemed to me like he looked the oldest. When he got off
Mhm,
that transporter with the beard and everything, I was thinking, wow, he looks really, really old.
mhm. Mm, very
Yeah, well,
70s.
I guess DeForest was one of the older cast members, so was he not?
Well,
Probably
he
with
was.
Doohan.
Oh, he was when he was hired. He was like 10 years older than Shatner and Nimoy and the rest.
Mm-hmm.
But he also had a severe drinking problem
Oh,
that he had to
okay.
overcome,
I
which did
wasn't
not
aware of
help.
that.
Yeah,
I
he
never
Hmm.
had
heard
to
of
over.
that.
Yeah, he had a severe drinking problem. He had to overcome. But he did
Wow.
kick the habit.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either.
Yeah. I'm surprised. DeForest seemed like such a. And he's got the reputation for being such a nice, easygoing person.
Well, he did, but like the rest of the cast, he had his demons, and he was
Yeah.
depressed at times when he was out of employment.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Well, that didn't help being typecast in Star Trek either. But it's a lucky thing that they did make this series of movies, which I imagine did set the most of the crew up fairly well. I mean, I
Oh
imagine they
yes,
finally got paid decently for those movies. So.
they did. Oh yeah, in fact, the last movie they paid him an exceptionally. I'm talking about DeForest Kelly. They knew it was his last role, and he was suffering from colon cancer, so they gave him a
Oh,
little
jeez.
extra larger paycheck than usual,
Well, that's good.
kind of a send off. Yeah, it was good, and he was very appreciative of that. He needed it. He wanted it for his family.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
Of course.
they never made a hell of a lot of money off of the original series anyway. I mean, they didn't get anything for the reruns much. I
No,
don't think, did
none.
they?
All right, nothing.
Yeah.
So,
So
and
they
they
kind of
didn't.
got ripped
All right, they,
off a bit.
they did. Well, it's not. Well, it wasn't intentionally ripped off. It's just that those kind of contracts weren't written back in the '60s.
True. True. Yeah, it was
Right.
a
It
different
wasn't
age.
until it wasn't until the '70s. I think it was the guy who played Uncle Fester on Adam's Family. He's the one that created that.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Yeah, Jackie Coogan. He's the one that created that, where they had to start paying royalties because
Yeah. Really?
he was a child actor with Charlie Chaplin,
Oh,
and
wow.
he had brought that
That's
up
going
how
back a
he made
ways.
a lot of things when he was young, but he never made money for it. So he was behind that whole
Right. I
drive of
remember.
royalties, right?
I
So
remember
that
him with Chaplin.
explains to
Yeah.
me. That explains to me why Leonard Nimoy, for the movies, wanted to change his contract so that he could get money from all the advertising and all.
Yes,
Every time his likeness was put
his
on
likeness, right?
anything.
Because NBC and Paramount were making lots of money after the show went off the air from the merchandising. The actors were getting nothing.
Yeah,
So
making millions.
one night Leonard Nimoy was having dinner with Henry Fonda and his wife, and it was Henry Fonda who told him. He said, you really need to go after them on that. And at that point, Leonard Nimoy hadn't thought about it, and he realized, yeah, you're right. So that's why Leonard Nimoy held out on that. He wanted to be paid for the royalties before he accepted the role in the motion picture. That's why the motion picture, they didn't really know up to the last minute whether he was going to play, and that's why they had that
Hmm.
replacement standing by, Zahn or Non,
Zahn.
Zahn.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, but it wasn't until the last minute, which they incorporated into the movie. As you guys saw, the whole cast where they incorporated that in, and they were surprised to see Spock show up. I thought that was a nice touch.
Hmm.
All
Yeah.
right, go ahead.
And hello in the chat to Matt G and Ervik Sonder.
Hello,
And,
Matt G
Ahoy.
and Arabic and Bird and everybody else out there,
oh yeah.
YouTube land.
Except for Mega Cropper. You know why.
And Certipupus Cuber
I'm
says,
sorry.
well, we like Mega Cropper. He's great.
I do too. That's why I'm busting chops.
Yeah, I know, and he likes that, I'm sure. And Snorapupus Cuber says the later command shirts were actually a sort of avocado green, but the film stock and lighting made them look gold. The dress uniforms and the wraparound uniform were different fabric and filmed green. And Hungry Boy says, to me his weight didn't seem to change, but his muscle definition did. Watching as an artsy rugrat.
And I
Snort-
think too, they slowly start gradually they start incorporating in more color since the cage, because at the time they were introducing and trying to sell color televisions. So I think the network and somebody was saying, "Look, we need more color. We have color TV. People are watching color now." So
Right. And I love how bright and colorful Star Trek is. It's so great.
absolutely, but like when you showed that opening scene where the Enterprise flying through space, it looks almost black and white. So
Mhm.
even when they did the special effects, they kind of paid homage to the slight black and white feel of this first
Well, that's
episode.
a good point. We still do not have the same music and the
Nope,
same backgrounds for the intro that we get that we're going to
correct.
get next week.
Okay.
Another
Sorry.
thing, another
Go
thing I
ahead.
want to mention about the colorful aspect of TOS. I read somewhere once. I have no idea if this is true or if this is just a rumor, but I read somewhere, as being someone with a background in fine art, with a degree in fine arts. I was reading that some of the art design people on the show had actually been possibly influenced by the pop art scene that was happening at that time back in the 60s. And the pop art scene is known for its very, very colorful imagery, a lot of it. So I'm just wondering if there's any truth to that rumor that I read. I read somewhere years ago.
That would make sense. You guys remember last week when we were talking about all the different engineers and doctors and everybody who were influenced by Star Trek? You remember that?
Oh yeah,
Mm.
there's so
Yes.
many people. Yeah.
I know this is out of left field, but I was reading an interview yesterday with Russell Johnson, the guy who played the professor on Gilligan's Island. He
Mm-hmm.
was invited to speak at a seminar of PhDs, and of course, he did not have one. But he said that everybody in the room raised their hand when they were asked if they were influenced by the professor to become a professor. So I
Very
thought that
cool.
was very cool. Yeah, even for the guy who could do everything with coconuts,
Well, that's right.
actually inspired people,
The professor could do everything except build a boat.
and he actually
Yeah.
inspired real professors to become professors, and I thought that was fascinating. He was very pleased and impressed as well, and I thought that's very humbling.
Yeah.
Professor, we need a rocket to the moon. 10 minutes. Can you fix this hole in a boat? No.
Right? It's funny because the set designers on that show, they were limited to wood and coconuts. Everything had to be made of wood or coconuts, and they said it was very difficult. So that's why you saw all the elaborate, like that little car that Gilligan would pedal around and everything. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, slightly
That's
implausible,
great.
but oh well.
Well,
Yeah,
and taking it
Gilligan's
back
that
to
was a strange show.
taking it
Anyway.
back to Star Trek, because I always get a Gilligan's Island vibe from Voyager. It was
Yes.
always such a
Me
question
too.
as to why wouldn't you just go to the Gamma Quadrant wormhole? You know where it is. And then I actually saw a galactic map that came in like the it, I think it was a 50th anniversary Time Magazine special edition, and it came with a star map
Wow.
inside. And if you did it with a protractor to see which would be faster to go to the Gamma Quadrant wormhole or back to Earth, pretty much the same distance.
Huh.
So I liked
Incredible.
that. Sorry?
That's great.
Yeah,
I didn't know about that. I'd love to see that map.
I
That sounds
will.
like lots of fun.
I will find it. Not now, but I will
Not
find it for
now.
you
I
soon.
mean, it's probably online too, but I like physical things.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah, Hunger Boy says he read the same rumor you did, Pleasant Valley Picker.
Yeah, I remember reading it, and when, the light bulb goes off over your head when you read something like that, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Because I remember the pop art scene was, I mean, a lot of bright colors and a lot of the work of those artists,
Hmm.
and I could see, because that was kind of the rage back in the '60s, right? And I could see the art directors of the series, possibly having, been somewhat influenced at least by that scene.
Well,
So,
the costumes as well. We got to see a few miniskirts here, right?
Not
yeah, it's
this episode.
interesting.
A couple beehive hairdos.
It's
No,
interesting
yeah,
when
I don't remember any miniskirts this one.
you speak about the
In the
miniskirts in
hallway
the
where it
series.
shows the crew members walking. I can't remember if it was the cage or this one.
Okay. It's not the TOS uniform, but yeah, there's a couple that are
There was a
walking.
man in a miniskirt, if I remember right, wasn't there?
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
Could be
think I
wrong.
remember seeing one.
Yeah, I
Or
think
was
you
that in
notice
the
more
movie?
detail than I do.
Sorry.
There's a guy in the Next Generation pilot Encounter at Farpoint
Right.
who's wearing the
Yes.
scant,
Yes.
but I don't
Yeah, the
know about
scans. I remember
here.
that.
Yeah, I'm just
I
finding
don't.
my next wardrobe.
The
Well,
Starfleet sarong.
okay. And And while they get interrupted, their game, I guess, is interrupted. Spock's gonna win anyway. It's pretty clear.
No. They say in the elevator, they say, oh, sorry, the turbo lift, they say, no, Kirk won.
Wait, Kirk won?
Yeah,
Wait a
because
second.
they get called
no,
away.
Hold on, I have to check the transcript.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. They get called away, and Spock is all uppity because Kirk moves, and he's like, "That's not the move you were supposed to make." And so they get into the turbo lift, and Gary gets
Mitchell.
in.
Yeah.
With
okay,
Mitchell.
wait, you're right.
And then Kirk just says, "No, I beat him, or at least I stopped him from beating me."
Wait, they don't say who won.
No, but Spock does say you should have moved the rook.
Oh,
and he's
okay.
like, that's what screwed his gambit up.
You're probably right. Kirk probably did win because you're right. Spock says he played most illogically. His next move should have been the rook.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that is an indication that Kirk won. Okay.
Well, and that's also part of that speaks to from the Bible in terms of their mutual respect based on logic and the complementary nature of this friendship. One being emotional and one being logical, and of them course, both coming together.
And of course, what would be the point of playing chess if one would always win? So they definitely have a relationship where one or the other will win. You don't know. You never know.
Jill, did you get any shots of the scene with them in the turbo shaft?
I don't know. We'll find out.
It was before the bridge.
No, it wasn't. What? Oh, not that one then. No.
Okay. No, this is off of the viewer. This is off of the viewer. And also big shout out to Lee Kelso. Fucking A, man. Sorry, I'm not supposed to swear. You are the bomb. You are one of my favorite. You are better than Jose Tyler from the first pilot, but you're not as good as Yeoman Smith or Jones. I forget her name.
Right, so does Captain Kirk. And you notice here the viewer actually looks more modern than the ones they later went with. This actually looks like a TV from today.
It does look like a flat screen.
Yeah, it does. I agree completely. This looks like a flat screen TV.
Yeah, it didn't have the box and all that. So, yeah, it's interesting how they changed it.
It's amazing how much Star Trek influenced the real world.
Oh,
you know, so many ideas that have, you know,
all those little kids sitting at home thinking, "Ooh, that looks neat. I'd like to work on that someday."
Exactly.
So the Enterprise finds a spacecraft only 1 meter in diameter, and Kirk allows for the risk of beaming it on board. This is like a black box we use on airplanes today, but this one is ejected from the ship before the ship is destroyed. And Kirk decides to use Spock's computer to read what's on it, on the recorder. And we see Kirk call for the first red alert of the series.
Kind of reminds me of the Changeling, that scene.
The Changeling, yeah.
And there's that red alert symbol, which we noticed was not there in the cage.
Yes, right. We did not get a red alert when we expected one in the cage.
Oh, right, and there was also no lights. So it's not only did they not have a red alert, but there was not that system in place.
And I am still watching the remastered. Eventually, I'm going to switch to the old one when I can.
Yeah, looking at these remastered effects makes me miss the old one.
Yeah, I know. I'll get it. I'll get it right eventually.
Yeah, it's too bad because Paramount, I doubt they'll ever go back and do it again. So this is probably all we're going to get for the future.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, the original effects are a different experience for sure.
Jill,
I'd be interested to hear Jill's thoughts on it when she has seen some of the original effects.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely recommend going back to that.
Yeah, maybe some side-by-side. Yeah, side-by-side comparison opinions.
But I have a question just in regards to the hindsight of 2022, looking back at a television show from 1966. In 1987, I'm going to stop saying numbers in a moment, they changed it from where no man has gone before to where no one has gone before.
Right.
And I'm just curious, looking back on that, how do you feel about that transition of basically what is the tagline of Star Trek?
Well, I see both statements as the same statement.
Yeah, I mean, mankind was used generically to represent both genders back in those days, right? So,
right.
I don't know.
It was to represent everybody on Earth, yes.
Yeah.
I don't see the need to change it, but then I guess, growing up with the show
Yeah,
back,
it's just a change in diction. It's totally fine.
Right.
And
yeah.
The meaning changed over time. Pretty soon they considered the word sexist.
and
I
it's
think
very
people are
clear from
overly
the
sensitive.
it's very clear from the very first two pilots that Gene wanted a diverse crew, and it even says in the Bible that the ship is 1/3 women at least or something.
Oh, yes, and I have a note in this book, the note that came down from Paramount insisting that he had to have some people of color in the show.
Hmm. Yeah, and there are.
Well, and
And that's
also it
great.
did sort of transition, not just being in terms of a delineation of gender, going from where no man to where no one, but also in terms of species, because
That's
it
true too.
it
Yes.
does say at the end of Star Trek Six, which is sort of the inclusion of the Klingons as being part of boldly going where no one, and it was to stop from
Yes,
being
that's a great point
speciest.
too. Right, because the only alien on board at first right here is Spock. So, but as we get through Star Trek, we get more and more alien species joining the ships, and that change in diction is helpful for that as well. Thank you. That
Yeah,
is
I
a good
suppose that makes
explanation.
sense. Yeah, it
Um,
makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Give me just a second here.
Oh,
Can you say a thing for me just for a
uh,
minute?
Pop Culture Curator, you have the conch.
Well, I was just thinking that I don't know if it's just me, but it looks like the ship is darker and or not as colorful in the later episodes. And that's what I meant a few minutes ago about if they're paying homage to the black and white and lack of color.
Black and white, right.
Because I almost thought like that first episode where it showed it coming out of the nebula, I thought that scene was in black and white until the ship got closer.
Well, and it is something that they took into account in initial production as well, because Spock was supposed to he was going to be red, but he came off as darker, which would have turned off viewers at the time apparently, and so they did switch it to a copper and greener complexion. But yeah, I think that they were trying to balance the people who didn't upgrade to color television quite yet to the people
Oh,
who were sort of being treated to this in color.
well, the thing is, they had to make it work on color sets and black and white sets because probably the majority of people still had black and white TVs back in 1966, right?
Hmm.
Right.
I
So
mean, I
sometimes
know.
they would, yeah, sometimes they would color things oddly just so they would show it correctly in black and white. Like
Yeah.
Superman's cape in the Superman series was brown, so that it
Wow.
would show up in black and white television.
Interesting. Yeah, but I mean, my parents didn't get a color set till I think it was around 1973 or 74.
These are the Turbo
So,
Chef scenes.
so I
Yeah.
remember watching all of TOS on a black and white TV the first time I saw it, and then seeing it again when we finally got a color television was like, it was like remarkable because I had no idea how colorful it was until I, finally saw it in color, and then it was like, wow, it's
Yeah,
like seeing
same
it all
here.
over for the first time.
Yeah, me too. I think that my first 10 years of my life were in black and white on for Star
Yeah,
Trek.
yeah, everybody had black and white TV when I was a kid, so.
Yeah, color was so expensive; only a few people had it.
Oh,
My
even when my
God, you
parents
people are old.
when my
And I
parents
remember the
bought the TV in 73, 74, I think it was a Quasar, which was a great TV. It was
yes,
one of those huge TVs that was basically a piece of furniture.
yeah,
But it was like, I don't know, I think like $1,200 or something.
yes,
I mean,
oh
it
yes.
wasn't cheap.
My stepmother had one of the first color ones, the ones that had like a round tube. Have you guys seen those? It had a
No,
round
I
screen. Yeah, it
don't
had a
remember
round,
that one.
very small round screen, maybe 10 inch.
Huh?
Very expensive.
My mom says that she was one of the first kids in her neighborhood to have a color TV because her dad worked in
Oh,
television at a
Oh,
television
so she had
lucky,
plant.
lots of friends.
Yeah.
lucky.
Everybody's over
All
her
right.
house.
Right. So she saw Star Trek in color.
Wow.
I wanted to mention something about this turbo scene, if I can. This turbo shaft scene. I should have sent the slides to you, but sorry, Jill, I didn't get a chance to kind of capture them until last night when I was watching it.
That's fine.
But okay, now I'll try to reconstruct this scene. It shows a scene from the outside of the turbo shaft, and Captain Kirk has to actually press the green button in order to open the door. So this is before they had the automatic opening doors. And I have I have a slide, but I don't have access to that. Anyway,
Oh.
he's opening. There's a red and a green button. He's got his hand over the green button. As the door opens, him and Spock step in. The door starts to close,
Mhm.
and that's when Gary Lockwood's character runs in and stops the door before it closes.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, as he runs in, we're looking from this angle that we're looking now. You can see the doors are still open as he runs in, and you can see a hallway. You can see the hallway on the other side. So, what I wanted to point out, which I thought was fascinating for this old of a show, and they actually went through the effort, is you can see a hallway out there. Gary Lockwood comes in, the door closes, they talk here for a few seconds. As they're doing this, they're actually changing that set outside that door. They're moving that temporary hallway.
Right,
When
just
the door
like when you're
opens,
in the middle of a play.
yes, so when the door opens, they step out into the bridge
Cool.
without
Oh,
an
wow.
edit or a cutscene. Does that make
That's
sense?
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Never
didn't
thought
think
of that,
about
but
that.
wow. That is
Yeah,
cool.
I wish I would have sent the clips, but yeah, pretty much if you watch the scene, there's no edits, there's no cuts. Gary Lockwood runs in, and you can see clearly a hallway behind him.
Wow.
Door
And that
closed,
helps
and
with the believability of, hey, we're on a
totally.
starship.
right
Yeah,
because
it
you
makes
can
it totally believable.
right because you can see the indicator with the lights on the left here by William Shatner. You can see the indicator of what floor they're on, and you can see them counting. And then as they slow down and stop, the door opens, and there's the bridge, which means they had moved that set out of the way that was the hallway. So
That's
I just wanted
amazing.
to bring that up. Sorry.
No,
No,
don't
that's
be
a really good
sorry.
that's a great observation, and I didn't even notice because it's so commonplace going back and watching Star Trek. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot that they actually have to do that. This is not a documentary.
Well, later on in the series, they never bothered doing that at all. They would just edit and cut. They would just
Yeah.
cut. It would have cut and then showed the scene from the outside of him stepping out of the turbo lift.
Mhm.
But the fact they shot this from the point of view of inside the turbo lift the whole time, that's what I really enjoyed. And I don't
That's
think we
amazing.
ever see this again in the series.
That is
Yeah.
amazing.
They do
Wow.
it a lot on TNG, but by then it's not as impressive as doing it here.
For
Do you
sure.
think they actually moved the sets around the other side of the door in TNG?
No, you're right. They actually have everything. They have the entire building set.
Yeah, what's interesting is the Paramount movie Naked Gun actually parodied it, where two of the characters were in an elevator. They get off, the elevator would open, there'd be like a pool, and then it would go up, and there'd be like a skyline, and it would go up again. There'd be something else, and then all these crazy jokes. So that joke has been parodied before.
Nice.
And
Sorry,
Sword
go
Putin
ahead,
says,
Jill.
I seem to remember the turbo lift cars were still squarish in the second pilot. And don't apologize for sharing really interesting production notes that I haven't heard of. And Hungry Boy says, I love the setup and development of the mystery in this episode. Yeah, me too. It's really well done. And
Anyway, I think I'm gonna have to head out, guys, because it's getting around 10:21 here, so I
Well,
probably
thank you for
should.
joining us.
okay, yeah, thank you for
I
being
should
here
probably
with
get
us.
ready and head out in about 10 minutes or so, because I got a little drive ahead of me. So
Oh,
Anyway.
we'll drive safe.
yeah, I will. It's the
Good
other
to see
drivers
you.
I worry about.
Good to see you,
But,
PvP.
Right.
May all your
yeah,
may
nice
all
to
your
see all you guys.
may all your television shows be in color.
Yeah, well, they will be from now on, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Unless I go back and watch old reruns of something, but
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I still
Twilight
watch those
Zone.
old Twilight Zones and everything. I love that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
I still appreciate
Twilight
black
Zone.
and white.
yeah, I love
Listen,
Season
Twilight.
of
Gary-
Man from Uncle is black and white. It's great.
Yeah,
Yep.
speaking
And
of Man
Gilligan's
from Uncle,
Island.
I've
And Gilligan's Island, right?
been
The
watching
uncolorized.
Man from Uncle lately, so that's been fun. And yeah, so anyway, I will pop off because I really am seeing the clock tick by here. So we'll see all you guys soon, I imagine. And,
Yeah, have a great
Yep.
day.
yeah,
Thanks
for
you too.
popping in.
And you have a good stream, and I'll probably pop on later tonight after I get home from work and watch the last part of this then. So
I
anyway,
Okay,
apologize for everything I'm about to do.
have a good day, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Cheers, PvP.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So,
Hey, Gary.
where are we? Hey, Gary. Yeah, so we meet
This
Gary.
is the
here
first
in
time we
Turbo
meet
Lift.
Gary, and we do get a little bit of camaraderie between Kirk and Mitchell. And
Yeah, talking
Spock
about
is the other.
Yeah.
And he does feel like he really knows them. So I think the acting here is really well because he does fit in like he's like the I guess the chemistry. You really do feel like he really knows them, and he's been on the ship for a while. So I thought that was really well done. Oh, and thank you, Jill. May I read this one?
Yes, and hello to the nerdporeal life form. Please read it.
Hello to the Nerdporeal Life Form. Yes, my favorite character of all time is in this episode. Alden, the communications officer, the first black character on TOS. Too bad he had no dialogue. Yes, in fact, he was pulled over by Bob Justman. Bob Justman was a sheriff in L.A. And he, even in between filming Star Trek, he was still a sheriff. And he pulled over uh, Alden once, and they let him off the hook because they said, "Hey, wait a minute, we directed him in an episode of Star Trek." Alden
Huh?
later went on to star as a teacher in the show Room 222.
Oh wow.
Oh, neat. Actually, Alden does have lines on the planet. So I
Yeah,
actually,
a few, yes.
Well, and Alden wasn't Alden the initial helmsman,
Yes.
and then so when he's relieved, he says, "Aye, sir."
Yes, and I wanted to bring in what Herb Solo wrote here, and it says, when casting was discussed with Gene, the only performers he would stand up for were the actresses with whom he had had a previous personal relationship: Majel Barrett, Nichelle Nichols, and Grace Lee Whitney. After the casting of Fix, she's the one who you see in here. Uh, oh no, sorry, Fix is the doctor in this episode. Sorry, Fix
Yes,
the
Paul
doctor
Fix
is
plays
right.
Mark Piper.
Right, but which was insistence from the network. They did not want They did not want DeForest Kelly once again. So too bad. And then Herb told Gene Roddenberry, too bad Kelly hadn't been born a woman. Gene's versions of the ship's yeoman's role came straight out of old Hollywood movies. According to Gene, he wanted the character cute and shapely, and cute and bubbly, and cute and not too bright, and cute.
wait,
Laurel
not too
Good,
bright. That doesn't sound like Gene. Who wrote
yeah, yeah. This is Herb
this? No.
Solo.
What?
Yeah, Herb Solo.
In the writer's Bible, the Gene specifically
I
has
know.
women that he wants the women to be intelligent. I don't
I know.
understand where is this coming from.
This is before the
Well-
Bible was written. This is, like I said, warts and all. There are some things I'm not gonna read, but
Oh no.
Laurel Goodwin as Yeoman Colt fit Gene's vision
Yeah.
for the first pilot, but she was swept away by the NBC broom.
Yeah,
model-
yeah. In the writer's guide, it specifically says that the yeoman is supposed to be intelligent.
Yes,
Yes.
but that you're reading the 1967.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true.
Model
So
Andrea Drum, also fitting the mold, came aboard for the second pilot as Yeoman Smith. Actually,
Smith.
it was a non-part, but during that casting process, director Jimmy Goldstone overheard Gene say, "I'm hiring her because I want to score with her." It was not only a non-part, I'm sure it was a non-score as well.
Jeez.
Paul Carr was hired as one of the ship's officers, Lieutenant Lee Kelso.
What's
Carr was a good
the
actor, but it too wasn't much of a part.
Oh,
who's the
Lee
source?
Kelso was memorable.
who is the source on that?
Herb Solo and Bob Justman.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
this
they were
is
right
sort of,
there creating Star Trek right along with
Talking
Gene.
Smith.
Not just said this is from not Gene Roddenberry's point of view. This is for the people working with him.
Mhm.
So there's actual copies of notes from Gene Roddenberry to the associates, and between Gene Roddenberry and NBC and Paramount.
And
Okay.
don't forget,
And
Jill,
some of
when
it's
we
not
were
pretty,
celebrating, when we were
Yeah,
celebrating
I
the
know.
101st birthday of Gene Roddenberry, this is something that I was sort of trying to, I don't think I was trying. I think I was very explicit with
Yes, you were. Yes.
Yeah,
and
I wouldn't have
Gene
brought
I
this
do.
up.
I do realize that. I do realize
Gene
that.
was
after
a
it just known.
hound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gene
he
was
loved.
a hound.
He loved women. I understand.
And I would not have mentioned this on his birthday. I would
Mhm.
not have done that.
Cool. All right. Thanks. And
I'm sorry, Jill.
Oh no, it's totally fine. Oh,
You
I'm
just
sorry. Did
killed
you-
Santa Claus.
No. No, I knew this stuff. I did know it. It's just the part of it didn't that scoring didn't bother me. It was the part that he said to have somebody who's not bright. That is not in the Bible, but I realize I
don't-
guess this is after.
Well, and I'm sorry, Pop. Did you say that it was supposed to be like a dummy?
Because the yeoman
Yes.
is specifically put in the Bible as not dumb.
Right. You're right. When they rewrote it later on, they had a lot of time to second guess. Also, in this episode, remember the look. I don't know if you catch it or not. But the look on Kirk's face when he's introduced to Sally Kellerman. I mean, he literally looks her up and down and gives her the eye, and I'm like, oh, that's something they wouldn't show anymore.
Well, but I thought that that
Yeah,
is
that's kind of
something that
weird.
he wasn't leering. I think that he
No.
No,
was
not that much, but he did. If you caught, it is looking her up and
Well,
down,
yeah,
and
I don't know. I think he was just trying to get through.
sizing her up
yeah.
based on psychology and being like, "Oh, you're a head shrinker."
Also, when they step out of the turbo shaft, the camera semi follows them out of the turbo shaft and into the bridge, and you get a quick glimpse of the fourth wall, the one we usually don't see, where the camera and crew are usually
Mhm.
standing. So that's a portable wall they move in and out. So we get a
Hmm.
quick glimpse of
Cool.
that before we get a good look at the inside of the bridge, which of course we're still using the viewer
Oh,
from the
did I
cage.
lose? Did I lose my? Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
We hear you.
Okay, so the Nerdporial life form says, was Lee Kelso supposed to be the chief engineer, or was it Scotty? It was still Scotty this episode because they had everybody from all the department heads show up, and Scotty was there.
I'm guessing Kelso was his main man. Maybe I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
I feel like Lee Kelso is the first Tom Paris, just a jack of all trades who can do anything and is affable.
I think you're right. And he said he continues. He had a larger role than Scotty in the repairs of Delta Vega and had a relationship with Mitchell as well. I am not joking, Lee.
I'm not joking, Lee. Check those points. They're burnt out. He's a fool. A fool.
Nice. I didn't know that about the studio not wanting to force Kelly. Hence, we get Dr. Piper. Oh,
I
Yeah.
thought
yeah.
I thought D. Kelly was unavailable at this point. I didn't think it was studio. But you have the reference material. I'm just talking jibber jabber.
Yeah, he tried to
Yeah,
get him from
I
the
don't know.
beginning, which I give Gene credit for that. He wanted to force Kelly from the beginning, but it was a
Hmm.
studio interference.
Yeah, and Snorapoopa says Kelso went down to the planet as a scrounger while Scotty stayed aboard and did the repairs.
True.
And to Nerdpoil, I'm trying to get part 2 uploaded by tonight. Oh, I don't. I still haven't. All right, that's awesome. Part 2 of his Zelda, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, or
Nice.
retrospective. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
that'll be exciting.
And yes, rest in peace, Lee Kelso. You're
Hmm.
sorely missed.
Yeah. Okay. And
Nude for Life Form says he wasn't available for the cage. That is very possible. I mean, he was a
and
busy actor. He was doing a lot of westerns back then and a lot of TV work.
Well, and also, I kind of miss Philip Boyce. I miss Dr. Boyce. Oh, well, there you are, Yeoman Smith. And may I say for all of the gentlemen in the audience, va-va-va-voom.
yeah, okay.
Oh, the way they were objectified, it was just, it is sad now you look back at it.
She's not objectified, I don't think. I
Yeah,
just think
right. Me
that she's
neither.
sort of deer in the headlights right now. Like, and
Well,
you
she's
know
not
what?
given anything to do. Just she's just there.
True.
She's just standing there. This
Oh
episode,
no,
at least
no,
in
I
the
agree.
cage.
No, right. And if anything, I would say this series did it less than the rest of the shows of the '60s. So yeah, there were at least leaps and bounds of that. But it's after listening to the casting choice, I'm thinking that's sad they went by that. But she still did good for the role that they gave her.
Yeah, at least in the cage, they had some reports for Kirk to sign. I mean, Pike to sign, and
Yes,
she doesn't have that here.
No.
right.
And also, there is a moment, like, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but when they go through the barrier at the edge of the galaxy, um,
Hmm.
Gary Gary sort of goes to comfort her and sort of hold her hand,
Oh
and
yeah, he
she
does. They both hold hands.
They
and
do.
she looks like she wants nothing of it.
Yes, I noticed that too. Right? She's like, "What
I
is
was
this?"
she's like, what? And I thought that that was sort of a nice, and whether or not that was just actor's choice of I don't like this Lockwood fella,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was kind of appropriate to the scene. Look at this Gary Lockwood. Is it
Yeah,
Gary Lockwood?
Gary
Yes.
Mitchell plays the helmsman in this episode as they head to the edge of the galaxy.
Yeah. And also, you'll remember him from 2001: A Space Odyssey
Mhm.
and several episodes of 70s crime shows. I wonder
And
whatever happened to him, why he was so downgraded. This looked like a rising star.
And you can see there's a cable under Captain Kirk's chair that leads up to that goose lamp. Sorry to
yes,
say.
Oh,
Hungry Boy
really?
says he digs that groovy desk lamp by Kirk's elbow on the captain's throne.
Right.
Yeah,
You think they would have put the cable inside the chair, but yeah, you can clearly see the cable right down there by Kirk's feet.
Oh yeah, I see it. Oh. Pearl Lifeform says Gary Lockwood played Gary Mitchell, plays Dr. Frank Poole.
true story.
Andrea Drom is still with us. I wonder if
Oh
she
wow.
attends conventions.
Oh, that would be nice if she did.
Dr. Piper was such a non-character. He was barely in the episode. We see more Dr. Denner in sickbay. I remember seeing this as a kid and was like, who is the chief doctor? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I
Well,
was confused as a
we'll
kid
see
too
him.
because I didn't realize about the pilots and all that, so I was a little confused as a child too. Why the doctor kept switching out different actors.
Hmm.
Well, and I really enjoyed, you're absolutely correct that Dr. Mark Piper is a non-character. He's basically like he's less than Sulu and Scotty in this episode, but well, he's less than Lee Kelso. But in this episode, the way that he becomes a character is when Kirk says his first name. He's like, "No, Mark, don't give him a pill until I beam. Whatever. No, it's an order. Don't fight with me." And it's just like that's what made the character is Kirk's relationship with him, even though Dr. Piper doesn't say anything,
Hmm.
in my
Well,
opinion.
well, he does say something, but not to Kirk.
Well,
Um,
I just mean that he
right,
doesn't say
right.
anything
He
like
doesn't
sort
have a
of
big character moment. You're correct.
right. And the character moment comes from Kirk.
And here's also our first look at Sulu, but instead of serving as navigator, he's a physicist working for Astro Sciences.
But his
And
character's name is Sulu.
yes,
Yes.
instead the navigator is Kelso.
Right. Sulu's probably looking at that navigator saying, I'm going to have that seat one of these days.
And Scotty is here from engineering right from the start.
Well, and that's another one of those character moments that is like, oh, okay, these guys are friends because Scotty shows up and says, "Engineering division, ready as always, sir." And Kirk sort of gives him a
Hmm.
smile, and it's like these guys are buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel that they already know each other. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Denner is also present here. She's head of life sciences. And Gary Mitchell kind of hits on her, and it's
Oh,
a surprise
yes.
when she throws it back at him.
And the horrible thing he says when she does.
Yeah, right. He calls her a freezer unit.
Right,
But
which is like, okay, imagine that. And he says it out loud where everybody on the bridge can
I
hear him
know,
and
right? How
react.
incredibly unprofessional, but
Uh huh.
it doesn't shake her at all because she's a psychiatrist and head of the life science department.
Right, and
So
I
she
have
doesn't
to
have that
say
much
that,
issue.
right, and I have to say, any of these hints of sexism like this that we're bringing up disappear
Hmm.
throughout the series. It's not anywhere. It's only in these first couple episodes we see these.
Yeah.
So they're just working out the rough edges.
Yeah, but that's a great balance of Star Trek here. It might have little moments like that you might question, but I mean, kind of things that are the product of its time. But at the same time, the women are cast in the roles of leadership, and so it's really easy to forgive for me.
Well, and she proves that too, that she's not dumb.
Hmm. Especially since establishing some kind of banter with her and Gary actually makes sense, since they end up becoming involved later.
Right, due to their ESP capabilities.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that was the moment when you're a walking freezer unit, and everyone looks at her and is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about that."
Yeah, right.
And that guy's an asshole.
He kind of is. Well, I guess he
Yeah.
started that way,
Yeah, this is where you can really get a good look at that electrical cord down by Kirk's chair.
So
And
there's
there he is.
Alden. So the tapes on the recorder are burnt and unusable, but Spock is able to interpolate some of the memory banks
Through that
better
old
directly.
wired headphone, yes.
Yes,
Which will disappear. We'll never see it again.
right. Bluetooth is coming soon. The Valiant encountered some type of magnetic storm. It tried to head back, and then it requested data on ESP from the computer, and then it self-destructed. So that's the information that Spock is able to interpolate from the
Well,
recorder.
And it's also nice just to see the evolution of Spock from the cage, where he's like, "All right, scanning disruptors," and he's being very like emotive and very dramatic. With this,
Or
he's
he's the
sort
only
of,
one shouting. Yeah, he's shouting pretty much, and nobody else is. So yeah, I thought that
and
was
in
odd.
this one, it's taken down like by half. And so it's not that dramatic as it was in the cage. And then
Correct.
once we get
Agreed.
to Man Trap, we get pretty much Spock Prime.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I
this
think
is
I think the shouting here is in line with military because back then, or in fact, in subs they would often shout their commands like that back to the captain to know, so the captain know that they understood them correctly, and
yes.
also the fellow ship members. So that's where they got the influence of him shouting. But I guess they realized that hey, we don't need that. We can just talk.
But it is again, it's a gradual reduction and then it settles into the character, if
That's a
you'll
very
Yep.
good point.
pardon.
Yep. Definitely.
Other than Kirk or Spock, the three guest stars had greater roles than the rest of the crew. I wonder what we would have gotten if they continued with that crew and set dynamic.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I wonder what
Yeah,
we'd have
I
gotten
don't know.
if Jeffrey Hunter would have accepted the role. We'll never know, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Spock would have had a harder time with such a. I don't know if he would have. I'm glad. I'm more attracted to Jeffrey Hunter, but I think that Captain Kirk is the better captain.
How dare you objectify a man?
Yeah, I can do it too.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Well, apparently
I
that's
was
what Jill
being
was.
facetious.
I know.
I
I,
guess that Jill
I
was saying that's what Lifetime and Hallmark. That's what those channels are all about, right?
Hmm.
mhm,
Well, and speaking of Hallmark, I do have Jeffrey Hunter on my wall right now.
mhm. Yeah, I don't want August to end. By the way,
It's gonna.
Turn.
No, I know. Who's next?
No, no, no! Don't look yet. It's gonna be a surprise.
No, I know who it is. I looked.
Dang it. Okay, where was I?
Jeffrey Hunter.
That doesn't help.
No, it
Spock
doesn't. It
receiving the
doesn't.
transmission and
There
shouting
we
out. Yes.
are. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Dinner is asked about ESP and says she says that she has high ESP and that some people can predict the future, but capabilities are limited in humans.
And Spock makes some factual errors here. He said people with ESP are known to see through walls, start fires with their minds, things like that. All that's been proven is false.
Mm.
But back then they didn't know that. They were.
Right,
This
they're
is when
bound by the science of the time.
right. Well, and the hoaxery. There was a lot of that Russian. I can't remember. There was a Russian guy that was going around. He was a big hoaxer back then, and people were believing Lou something. I can't remember the name, but yeah, he was a really big crook back then. And then the Amazing Randy proved him that everything he was doing was fake. So to this day, ESP has not been proven. Everybody, there's instinct that some people have that where they're close, but it's never been actually documented.
Hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I agree. So they head out of the galaxy at the same path the Valiant took to figure out what happened. On their way, they encounter what they call some type of force field or energy field. So they turn on their deflectors, but that doesn't stop some type of electrical charge from flowing through Gary Mitchell and Dr. Denner. And we
They
have
never
our
put
first.
this console out. They never put it out. They just
No.
let it go.
Yeah, you can see it looks like it's melting,
Yeah.
or like let's say pour wet wax over it or something, but it
And,
does look like it's melting.
and they reference this in the Orville, I don't know if season 1 or 2, and Alara is looking at the console that's on fire, and Captain Mercer says, "Why aren't the fire
Yep.
suppressants spraying?" And she said, "This is the fire suppression unit."
That's funny.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think I heard in one of Bird's Discovery reviews that they had actual flamethrowers shooting out of the walls on Discovery. So go figure, right?
Yeah. Okay. And so there's the energy, the electricity charge that comes from this energy field, whatever it is, and goes
First
through,
person.
yeah, the first person, and then also Gary Mitchell gets this electrical charge,
And it
and
looks like his charge is more severe than hers. because she seemed to take hers a little bit better.
Hmm.
I like how
And
Kirk jumps into action to do the helm, and then Spock is like, "Wait a second, he's the captain. I should do this." And he
yeah, and
jumps
it's
in.
great.
Yeah,
I
like it
love
is.
that too.
And again, one of my like I don't want to bring up the filth, but one of my things about the filth is that nobody does their jobs. And watching this episode is just like, holy crap! Everybody has a job, and they're all doing it really well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's the captain, but if Gary Mitchell's gonna fall over, then he'll step up and fly the ship.
Well, and
And
like a
then
true captain, he knows every command and how to control every console on that ship. So that does
Right.
make sense.
absolutely, but then Spock seeing Kirk controlling the helm, it's like, no, he's busy being captain. I got to
Yeah,
jump on helm.
exactly. It's beautiful. I agree
It's
completely.
great. Oh my God. It's it but and again, this is like one of those things that Star Trek sort of infused in me is like duty, responsibility, awareness, and action. Like this is just what you do. You don't do it. And this goes back to the 101st birthday of Gene. It's like you get trapped in a situation and it's not about what you have to do, it's just what you can. It's
I agree.
really great. It's really great in
Yeah,
my estimation.
yeah, I agree completely. And then in the Surapoopa says, and then in the Corbomite maneuver, quite unnecessary to raise your voice, Mr. Bailey. All engines stop. Sound alert. So that's just in the next episode. So they develop Spock even more in the next episode. I can't wait.
That was it, Yuri the Spoonbender. Yuri, that was the name of the Russian that was
Oh,
doing
I
all
had
the
no idea
hoaxing.
what that was.
Yeah, Yuri Geller. Yes, thank you, Snortopoopas. That was that. Yeah, it was a Russian guy who made famous. He was even on the like Tonight Show and I mean all over. But then they found out everything he was doing was hoaxes.
There is no spoon.
Oh, you stop your matrices. Matrices? Anyway.
Sometime in the future, they forgot about circuit breakers. Says Surapoopas.
Well, at least we aren't in the era of rocks.
The Nordpro life form says negative energy shocking them and then unlocking a part of the brain. Extra sensory perception. Thank you. Actually, that does help me with this.
Yeah, and
And
I think the reason why I've heard the joke often about why they don't have circuit breakers is because in real life, like even on the ship of Star Trek, okay, those panels, as we all know, those are linked to departments around the ship. So in real life, what actually happens is the panels would just go dark,
Hmm.
and that's just not very good dramatically. You know, and so that's I think that's the reason why they have the explosions. Not for it's definitely dramatic purposes because if they just said, "Oh my console went dark, I can't do anything, none of the buttons are working," that's just not very dramatic.
That makes sense. So, and the Enterprise is a character. So,
Yes, and we feel when she gets hurt, we can feel it too, just like a character, right?
hmm
Especially in Star Trek 2, that was like, oh my god.
and as a point to that, not only do people on the ship get people with high ESP get this electrical charge, but also the ship itself, the engines burn out, so that the Enterprise can only travel at impulse. And without warp, they are years away from getting any help this far out. From this encounter, 9 crewmen also died. And this is where we get the reveal that Gary Mitchell says he's okay, but
oh my God.
his
So
eyes.
Right,
his
you can see
eyes are
you can
and
see
then they
the holes for his pupils where you can see because he could not see through any of the silver.
so I wanted to save this little anecdote until we got here. This is the first episode of Star Trek I ever saw, and the reason that this episode is burnt into my mind is because of those eyes. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen in my entire life. Wait, that's not true. The most terrifying thing I'd ever seen in my life was the Vincent Price episode of The Muppet Show where Kermit had teeth. And then it was the Incredible Hulk, and then it was this. And I was just like, oh my God, what is this? I have no idea. So, Gary Mitchell, in my opinion, is one of the most terrifying Star Trek villains I have ever seen from my childhood. This is just insane.
That's a great story. Yeah. Yeah, he is pretty scary. And
Right, and he can only wear those contacts for a very limited time because of the pain. I think it was like maybe a
yeah,
minute.
was it really painful for him? And that must have helped his performance because he had to be angry a lot.
Well, and later
Yes.
when we see him in sick bay, that's why he's kind of got his head cocked back because he's having trouble
Mhm.
seeing what's going on around him.
Oh, and
Yes.
throughout the episode, you can see how his eyes are getting red. Like you can see how long he's had them in, because those contact lenses were made out of burlap sacks,
Oh
spray
my
painted with
God.
silver paint.
What? That's
No, not.
ridiculous.
I know, but it was of its time. They didn't have things like plastics.
Yeah,
I
in
wonder
the
what
silent
the
movie
what
eras,
else
Lon Chaney used egg
behind
whites.
him.
Oh my God,
Read about those eyes sometimes. The contacts they had to wear were brutal. Yeah, that's what everybody's
brutal.
saying. They agree. They agree with you.
And later they
Um.
were made out of glass, so it wasn't much easier. They were heavy, thick glass.
Oh no.
You blink too hard, and all of a sudden you're just filled with shards of
Yeah,
glass in your
yeah,
left eye.
yep.
This is more terrifying than how terrifying Gary is in this episode.
Well, yeah, no, the real life trials and tribulations. Yeah.
And Nerd Pearl says, I rented the 1980s VHS from my video store. I remember seeing the box for this and these creepy characters with silver eyes. And I was like,
Jeez,
I gotta see this. He's
those
terrifying.
VHSs were $85 a piece, one episode each.
That's why he looked down on everyone in his performance. Sally Keller did not have that problem in putting them on.
And
Ooh.
that's weird because I never heard much from Sally Kellerman saying that they sucked, but I did hear that Gary Lockwood was like, this is like knives.
Now Gary Lockwood did conventions, didn't he?
I don't know. I do not know.
Okay. I don't know if Sally Kellerman ever did, but I thought I heard that Gary Lockwood did. Space Age Records.
Yeah, the Valiant had made it to this point, so Kirk is no closer to figuring out why they self-destructed. Kirk and Spock take a look at the ESP records from Mitchell and Denner, who both score very high. Mitchell scores the highest, while also possessing some telepathic capabilities. The other 9 who died also had higher than normal ESP score, but only Denner and Mitchell were capable of surviving. This is an interesting way to give us a basis of entry for whatever this electrical charge is, and how it only focuses on people with high ESP. And in a moment we'll be seeing sick bay. Yeah, sick bay here. Respiration pulse
Boom,
stats.
boom, boom, boom.
And in sick bay, Gary Mitchell is reading some of Kirk's old favorites, including a philosopher named Spinoza.
Look at that fancy remote control.
I've never read Spinoza, but if anybody wants to, it's free on Project Gutenberg, where all the public domain offerings are for fiction and nonfiction. And this also contains one of my friend's favorite quotes about Captain Kirk, and this is when Gary calls Kirk from his days at the Academy a walking stack of books, because Gary is now reading Kirk's book list, I guess. And now,
Some of that long hair stuff that you liked back at the academy.
yeah. And this surprises Kirk because they were old friends, and he never knew Gary to read the same things he did. And not only that, but Gary is not only reading it, he's also now calling the philosopher childish, and he doesn't agree with him. Even admitted that back at school he used emotional manipulation to pass Kirk's class, because Kirk taught a class as a lieutenant, by setting him up with a woman that he almost ended up marrying.
Well, and I
Yeah.
have a theory about this, and it's something that I don't think that is original. So if you've heard it elsewhere, I've probably absorbed it from the internet. However,
There.
there was a theory that the little blonde lab technician that Gary Mitchell pointed Kirk's way was Carol Marcus. And if the timeline fits, which it does, yeah, Gary Mitchell is responsible for the birth of David Marcus. Kirk almost married her.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's interesting. If they used elements from this episode for Star Trek 2, that's really neat.
I don't think that that is the case. I think that that is just a matter of Apocrypha being adopted as headcanon,
Hmm.
but it is one of my favorite Apocryphas, if that's a
Yes,
word.
and thank you for qualifying it as such.
Yes. But it's just one of those things. It's like, oh, I outlined her whole campaign. I almost married her. Well, what happens before you just get married? Sex.
Hmm. True
You know,
enough.
me, maybe some baby.
Yeah, and apparently so. At some
Well,
point.
possibly so. Possibly so.
I have a
Well,
note here about the eyes, if I can.
oh, yes, please. Please share.
Robert Justman, I guess that he insisted on silver from the beginning, and they had to call around Hollywood to try to locate somebody who would make them. So it says here, Bob Justman said Silver Eyes. John Roberts he called a place called Roberts Optical Company, stating if John Roberts can't make them, no one can. Bob Justman said Silver Eyes, and then John Roberts was incredulous. Over the phone, it sounded bad, the way the optician said it, but I persisted. Yes, Mr. Roberts, my name is Bob Justman. I'm from Desilu Studios. We're making a new science fiction television show, and two of the stars have to have silver eyes. Silver eyes, he repeated. He sounded gruff. Yes, we need silver eyes. The people at Security Contact Lens recommended you. They said if anyone could make them, you could. They did they? He sounded skeptical, less gruff but skeptical. Yes, they said something about scleral lenses. Scleral, he interrupted. Not like what we use today. Scleral lenses cover the whole eyeball. You sure that's what you want? Yes, that's exactly what we want. Nobody else does. They're too damn uncomfortable. What's going on? Who's going to wear them? Sally Kellerman and Gary Lockwood. They're never heard of them. So, well, they're both pretty well known. And well, how you got them to look like silver? That's the problem. Gary had his own series, Lieutenant, and you can maybe coat the outside with silver enamel, paint it on. You could, that's great, but it wouldn't work. Oh, what you have to do is laminate something inside the lens. That would make it a double thick, but it could work. Great. So those were double laminated. Now
Oh,
they'd be too damned uncomfortable, maybe even dangerous if you had them in too long. Oh, it's a challenge. I've never done anything like that. Come on to my office on Monday at 9 and take a look. I'll dream something up over the weekend. Gee, thanks. He had already hung up. So yeah, there you go. They threw them together over a weekend, double
Yeah,
coated.
it is as uncomfortable as those might have been. Apparently, they made this episode.
And people remember them, yeah. So that's one of the main things we all remember.
Hmm.
but
And
it's still, that's just so crazy. Like, uh, no way. Like, I was watching the episode and, like, reminiscing on how it impacted me and how these eyes uh, were haunting to me. And I was also thinking about the actor who had to put them in. And I would be like, if that was my job, I would be like, no, I would not have done that. I would never have done that in a million years. Like, I don't wear contact lenses. Obviously, I wear glasses.
yeah,
You've
I don't
seen me
like
before.
anything in my eyes.
No. And so I just don't even know. Like, I've thought about going as Data for Halloween, and,
Hmm.
the 90% of it
You
is the
need the old
eyeballs.
yellow eyes.
You need old yellow eyes. And it's just like, am I going to get, no, never. Not in a million years.
This says I
Mm.
arranged
You would be a
appointments.
good data though.
I arranged appointments for Sally Kellerman and Gary Lockwood to be fitted for the lenses by John Roberts. Sally's fittings were fine. She was in and out in no time at all. Before delivering the custom-made lenses to her, I tried them on. After a minute or two, they drove me nuts. But Sally could pop the lenses in and out at any time without difficulty and wear them without any pain. Even the buildup of heat between the lenses and her eyeballs didn't phase her. But Gary Lockwood was a whole another story. His fitting took a long time. Later on stage, after much fussing, he'd finally managed to get the lenses in between his eyelids and his eyeballs, but he could hardly see while wearing them. In order to have any vision at all, Gary had to raise his chin and look down his nose at the other actor in the shot. Happily, this gave him an unearthly appearance that worked well for his character and even helped his godlike progression.
Yeah,
There we
it
go.
did. I think so. I agree completely.
Like he's looking down at everyone below him,
Hmm.
right?
Right, as if he's above everyone, and that works
Mm-hmm.
perfectly. Then
Hmm.
it catches it. Kirk is also caught off guard when Mitchell's voice goes all low and weird when things aren't
Reverberation,
going his
right?
way.
Sudden loud reverberation.
It's like his first tantrum here, but he tempers off back to his normal voice, and that was a
Didn't
good
I
way.
tell you, Jim? You should be good to me.
And then he realized that maybe I shouldn't play my cards too soon.
Yeah, that was a great way to an eerie way to set up his mental capacity. And in order to illustrate that further, he begins to read entire pages in just a second in case that brilliant dialogue you just heard didn't fill you in.
Well, even when he was reading them, those pages, he seemed frustrated, like it was taking too long, like he was bored.
Right, as if
It wasn't
it
fast
would,
enough.
yeah, he couldn't get through them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then on the bridge, Spock notices that he begins to read even faster than that. And I become kind of jealous. It reminds me of Johnny Five and Short Circuit too, but I think Johnny Five could read just a little bit faster than Gary. And the Dr. Piper says that he's in perfect health. So after he's reading here, yeah, Piper says he's in perfect health and leaves. And
Yeah,
next
I
week,
thought it was odd that Piper has that medical device with him. And he says, "You're fine." There it is. It looks like a vacuum cleaner. And he says, "You're fine. You're doing absolutely well." And then he leaves sick bay. Where's he going with that medical device? I don't know.
no, I don't know either. That's a good question.
Yeah, you think we're belong in sick bay, but who knows? Maybe they have a warehouse,
Mm,
or there's
Well, and
somebody in the next room who needs it, or something. I don't know.
I also thought it was weird that he's wearing a patient smock. Like he's wearing the same sort of scrub as Gary over
oh, and
top of his uniform. And I was just like, okay, I guess.
that's true. That's a good point. Also, Nerdpoil Lifeform says, "Gotta go. Great show, Antiderivative Jill. I want you as a future guest for Trekporial." Oh yes, absolutely. I'd join.
Take care, Nerdporial. Good to see you.
Yeah, yeah. Just DM me on Twitter
Live long and prosper.
and have a great day.
Yes.
What is Trekporial, Jill?
Well, it's one of his shows on the Nerdpoil Lifeform. He has a series of shows, and he talks a lot about Star Trek, the Orville, Better Call Saul, Legend of Zelda, and other stuff.
Okay, very cool. I need to check that out. I
Yeah,
like
it's a
all
great
that stuff.
channel. And Hungry Boy says, "Damn it, I always thought it was just brilliant acting and direction of Gary. Y'all ruined my childhood."
So sorry, hungry boy.
And he says goodnight to Nerdy. And
Rest in
actually,
peace, your childhood, Hungry.
yeah. Oh, I lost the Nerdpoil Lifeforms link. I don't know why it's not here. What's the matter with me?
I'll find it.
Yes,
you keep
please.
going.
Okay. And next week we'll finally see Dr. McCoy. So we just have to wait one week. And then here's the scene where she reminds Gary he called her a freezer unit, of which he apologizes. More powers, though, are being revealed. Gary can alter his health readings and even even almost appear dead, uh, showing no life sign readings, and still come back from it. And if anyone wanted to know how much he'd been reading of the ship, he says that he read half of the ship's library, which I don't know how much time has passed since he gained his powers and started reading the library, but it feels like it's only been a few hours after the accident. I don't know the actual time, but
It seems brief.
Yeah, it seems so brief that the ship's library can't be that small. I don't know.
Well,
It seems like kind of a small library.
He does say that he got through half of the ship's library in a day. I'm assuming.
Okay, a day. So then that's okay. So then that's 12 hours. He had 12
Right,
hours.
almost a day. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a little more sense than the shorter time that I was thinking. And hello in the chat to the Comic Relief Crusader and Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Welcome.
Good to
I
see you
did
all.
drop. It is good to see you all. Yes, I dropped a link in the chat. It is a link to Nerdporial's Voyager recap because I figured I'd keep it somewhat on point. Did it show up?
Oh, wait a minute, Scotty. Can you put a normal message in the chat?
Sure.
Please? Just
Did
like
you block
a regular.
me again?
No, no, I don't think I blocked you. I just need you to type something without a link in it.
I
I
will.
need to see if you're a mod or not. I think you're not a mod yet, and I don't know how I didn't make you one yet.
Thank you so much for your patience, everyone. I'm learning how to use the internet for the first time. Here we are.
Welcome,
There we are.
I wanted to bring
And
up
that's
something if I could.
sure, please.
Herb Solo also added about Gary Lockwood. He says, although he appeared only in the second pilot, Gary Lockwood's association with the series continues to this day. Well, when this book was published. Gary loves to drive fast cars. Fast. Very fast. And on 4 separate occasions, in 4 separate states, Gary was pulled over by either the Highway Patrol or the local sheriff's department for speeds in excess of 130 miles per hour. On 3 of those occasions, a particular kind of peace officer stopped him. Gary noticed that the officers were Star Trek kind of guys with that old Star Trek look. The cops would stare at
Mhm.
Gary, check out his eyes to see if they were silver, and treat him as a special person. They
Nice.
remembered. He said they remembered me from the pilot, recalls Gary, and forgave me my speeding indiscretions. No ticket. The fourth time he
Sweet.
was pulled over, now traveling at 139 miles per hour,
Oops.
the highway patrol officer failed to remember him from Star Trek, but he did remember me from the Lieutenant series, says Gary with a smile. The guy was an ex-Marine.
Oh my God, he was driving too fast. He should have still got a ticket. 130.
Thank
The heck?
goodness he lived, all right. So at least he didn't die like James
I,
Dean or anything.
yeah, right. It's just
So that's interesting to know about Gary Lockwood, Speedhound.
yeah. And apparently, he is also like his character. He will corrupt. He will use that power. And yeah, Denner tests his memory by referencing a specific tape, calling out the page number, and seeing if Gary can remember it. And he recites the line from the poem perfectly. And, and I actually have a friend who could do that. I could take a book off of his shelf, and he can. I could tell him the page number, and he can tell me what's on the page. Pretty incredible. They were interrupted by, although I guess things are getting kind of. He's kind of coming on to her, so Kelso interrupts at this point, where we get yet another superpower that Gary has. Hey, am I on? Yeah.
I hear you.
Okay, great. Because he needs just one more to show what incredible godlike powers he truly possesses. Mitchell asks about the repairs, and he reads Kelso's mind to see that the starboard impulse packs are decayed to lead. So far, Gary Mitchell can possess and retain text extremely quickly.
Yes,
Change,
he said the batteries are made of lithium, so this is before they had dilithium, I guess.
yes, change his vitals at will and read minds. So then we have a conference in the briefing room, and I have to change my slideshow. So I'm going to grab my next slideshow and bring it in. And so here should be the briefing room. And yeah, here's the briefing room. So Spock points out to Denner, who was late due to being with Gary, that they're worried about Mitchell. But what is he changing into? She is offended by this, by hearing that Gary isn't Gary. And we get a great line from Captain Kirk, which details to the audience immediately what type of captain he is. I think that actually Scotty was mentioning this earlier, so interesting that I picked it out to read. Kirk says, "It is my duty, whether pleasant or unpleasant, to listen to the reports, observations, even speculations on any subject that might affect the safety of this vessel. And it's my science officer's duty to see that I'm provided with that. Go ahead, Mr. Spock." They discuss his new powers, and Denner posits that it could be a good thing, but Sulu and Spock disagree. Sulu says, "If you want the mathematics of this, Mitchell's ability is increasing geometrically. That is like having a penny, doubling it every day. In a month, you'll be a millionaire." So, geometrically, or I guess Sulu could have also said exponentially. And then Spock says, in less time than that, he will have attained powers we can't understand and can't cope with. Soon, will be not only useless to him, but actually an annoyance. And hey,
Dr. Piper looks like he's asleep. What are you doing? Don't wake me. Is it time for Matlock?
There's that aluminum clipboard again.
oh, and Sora Poopas gives us more trivia. Gary Lockwood appeared in an episode of T.J. Hooker without the silver eyes.
Yes, he went on to do a lot of
Nice.
television work.
And Scotty put in a link to a YouTube.
Yes, that was
What was that?
the
Nerdporo Lifeform?
Nerdporeal Lifeform, yes, and that is a link to his retrospective on Star Trek Voyager, and I thought it would be apropos if anyone in the chat wants to go
Cool.
and check that out before your appearance on tomorrow.
Yeah, that's great. Wait
Yay!
a minute. What is this? Okay. Well, I'm curious. I'm just going to see what this is. I'm not appearing on his show tomorrow. I'm appearing on King Dolphin TV.
The cinematographer who shot this episode also shot Gone with the Wind.
Jill, I should probably take notes.
No, it's okay. You'll
I'm
learn
so
who all
sorry.
you'll learn who all my friends are eventually.
I'm trying to promote everyone and I'm getting them mixed up. It's like, that's not Grimace, that's Hamburglar.
Hungry Voice says, a wooden table in that century? How expensive would that be? Ostentatious. Starfleet. Show-offs.
You know what? I think they could replicate some sort of plastic that had a print of wood. Maybe it wasn't actual mahogany.
Sure. Then, Snorta Poopa says, they changed it to dilithium later in the series because lithium sounded too ordinary. They probably didn't want people thinking that the Enterprise was suppressed and needed lithium to go.
Right, like titanium instead of titanium.
I thought they actually, and that's a dude snort. That is snortable.
Yeah, no, he's always funny.
But that is like, I think they changed it from lithium to dilithium because lithium is an actual element.
Yes, that's true too.
I hate to deflate the joke.
No, you're absolutely right. I thought about that too, and I actually let go of the fact that they used lithium in this episode. Like lithium, that doesn't make sense. But you know what? It's the pilot. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah.
But I'm glad somebody mentioned it.
Meanwhile, back on MASH.
Yeah, well, okay, they have the meeting, and once everyone leaves, Spock elaborates to Kirk on this, saying that the Enterprise crew would become nothing more than lab rats to Gary. His recommendation, Spock's, is to go to Delta Vega, which will have the lithium cracking station to repair their engines, and then leave Mitchell on the planet or kill him. Those are the choices. The logic is straightforward, but for Kirk, Gary was his friend. And again, even in this pilot episode, we see the shift from the Vulcan who smelled broadly blue plant to one who is betrayed.
What a robot.
Yeah, no heart for Mitchell. So the seeds of who Spock is as a Vulcan are being planted here. And the crew head to Delta Vega to repair.
Oh, can you go back
engine.
one? Can you go back one? Okay, so the only reason I bring this up, and this is completely and totally just superficial ridiculousness, no pointy sideburn.
Right.
At this point, we have square sideburns. Now, one of the things, and I'm sorry if I'm being pedantic, one of the things that Gene wanted from the crew of the Enterprise is that the men would have pointy sideburns. And the reason was so that you would be able to tell who the good guys were. Because sometimes the bad guys might be other Starfleet people, but it was always the people with pointy sideburns who were the good guys.
Oh, wow.
Which I always... That is...
Nice.
You know what? I'm not going to say it's a fact, but I'm going to say it was a design choice that I heard about.
That sounds like a thing. That's a thing.
Well,
it's funny too because back in the 80s when he was doing T.J. Hooker, some of the episodes he had the pointed sideburns because he was also filming Star Trek at the same time.
Well, and then in the production of Star Trek Generations, I believe that, and I read this from William Shatner's Star Trek movie memories autobiography with Garfield and Judith Reeves Stevens collaborating, that he was going in to make Star Trek Generations, and his daughter said, "But Dad, you don't have the Star Trek sideburns." And so they actually just took a fake mustache, like a fake mustache with pointy ends, and they cut it in half. And those are his sideburns in Generations, because one of the rules of being Captain Kirk, pointy sideburns.
Wow. I love that somebody caught that detail that was wrong and fixed it. That's great.
Well, and it was his
I mean,
daughter, which was
yeah,
even
it wasn't
better.
it wasn't even the production is what I'm saying.
It
Yeah,
was,
that's wonderful.
Dad, you can't be Captain Kirk. You don't have the pointy sideburns. Oh no, what are we going to do? I shoot tomorrow. I can't grow those by tomorrow.
And hello in the chat to Carlo Albanese.
Hey, Carlo. Kellerman was hotter as hot lips, Scotty. Yeah, no, totally. I'm glad that you did catch the MASH joke. And also, if you'd like to objectify Sally Kellerman, watch MASH.
Yes. Startopoopus continues
No,
that dilithium was what? Why not? I don't know. Okay.
it's okay.
All right. Startopoopus Cuber says, and dilithium really exists, but it's two lithium atoms covalently bonded together. I guess they were tired of changing things, decided to let it slide. Hmm.
That's
Thank you.
probably beyond my knowledge, Snort.
Well, it's chemistry. You can have
Yeah,
chemistry
beyond my
knowledge.
knowledge. Totally
It's
beyond my knowledge.
You didn't take chemistry in high school?
Uh, well, depends on your definition of taking chemistry.
Okay, end of questioning.
Yeah, thank you. If there are no follow-up questions, yes.
So the crew head to Delta Vega to repair their engine and abandon Mitchell. But before they do, Gary gets another superpower. He can
Yeah,
now
he does,
perform telekinesis.
which is really cool. I remember this distinctly. It's just like, oh my God, he's so powerful. He is a god, or at least he thinks he is.
Hmm. Yeah, he can move the cup, get it filled, and you can drink it.
Can I just take a step back and just look
Sure.
at production of television shows in general? Are you not absolutely frustrated when an actor takes an empty cup and pretends to drink out of it?
Doesn't bother me as long as I believe that they're really drinking.
He does a good job. Like I'm saying he does. But I still, it's not believable.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's
I
just
don't
my
know.
hang up.
You know what? I wasn't looking that closely when he was drinking the water. I was focused
You were
on
paying, yeah, the telekinesis. Right.
yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
I was too busy being impressed.
Yeah,
So
no, good
that's
point.
good. That's good that you noticed that. I'll check it out.
Whatever. You'll allow it. I get it.
Yeah. No, that's why I like having other people on the panel because they notice things that I do not.
Oh, thank you.
And so far, Gary can possess and retain text extremely quickly, change his vitals at will, read minds, perform telekinesis, and conjure electricity as a
Oh,
weapon.
yeah.
So
He turns into Electro.
working together though, even though he does this to Kirk and Spock with using his electricity as a weapon here, Kirk and Spock are still able to knock him out. With Denner able to sedate him.
Yeah. Which
Oh,
seems,
and by
you
the
know
way,
what?
I want to mention this is before we have the Vulcan neck pinch. So Spock punches Gary in the stomach. That's something you won't see very often in the series.
True.
Mhm.
Very true.
Excuse me.
See,
And
and this
this,
is one of those things that I always think about too, knowing how painful it was for Gary Lockwood to have those contacts in. I'm like, he's shaking his head and he's bouncing his head off of a pillow and all that jazz. And I'm just like, how does every blink just burn like the pain of 1,000 suns?
yeah, that's exactly what's happening here, and he uses it for his performance expertly.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Agreed.
In this state, they're able to transport him to Delta Vega only after having sedated him.
Stabbing him full of heroin.
Yeah. something.
I
Actually, yeah,
will
we don't
kill
know.
you, bugs. I will squash you like insects.
Well, at least he can still stand up.
Well, which is always very weird. This
Very
is a
handy
weird
too. Yes.
moment.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
he's
stand,
just
right.
slightly drugged,
He's slightly
or
drugged, right.
he's just so powerful that a strong sedative still allows him to stand somehow.
Stand on his own. Yes.
I buy it. We got
Look at
Scotty
this
out
guy
there.
watching Scotty. He's like taking notes, right? All he's there is to watch, and then he moves out of the way.
Maybe that was an early cadet uniform. You don't
You
know.
never, yeah, Maybe he's making sure Scotty does it right. Maybe he's training him.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
what is the old saying? If you don't know something very well, then you're very green. Maybe early Starfleet just had everybody wear green jumpsuits to
Yeah.
let
That's
people
possible.
know.
Sure,
Student driver.
yeah, if I were shadowing Scotty, I'd be watching everything he did too.
Yeah, ditto.
Yep. Hold in there, Gary.
Where do you hide the booze?
Oh, another
'Cause
match
it's-
painting.
Because it's
Wonderful.
Scotty. Because he's never mind.
This set here was also where they filmed this was the same set where they shot Gone with the Wind. It was the old David O. Selznick studio, apparently.
Oh, and
So
you
they
mentioned
had-
this. You mentioned
go
the
ahead.
cinematographer, the same cinematographer.
Yes, they were having trouble finding a cinematographer, according to this book. And it took Bob Justman said, I know this old guy who's semi-retired, but he hasn't done anything in a long time. And they said, what has he done? And he said, well, Gone with the Wind. And he said, yeah, bring him in.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Albert Whitlock?
No, Albert Whitlock does these paintings like they're looking
Yeah,
at right
he's
now.
done this.
But the guy I'm talking about, experienced Bill Fraker.
Oh, okay, great. And he did the
Right.
sets.
No, he was the
Well, no,
cinematographer from
Oh, the
Gone with the Wind.
Cinematographer from Gone with the Wind. And this studio
I'm
set
not
that
paying
they're
attention,
in,
sorry.
that's okay. The studio that they're in was the same one where they filmed Gone with the Wind. So they had according to this book, they had trouble wrangling some noisy pigeons up in the rafters. That they kept halting production because they were making noises. So they had to bring a pigeon wrangler in and feed the pigeon in between scenes to keep them happy, so they wouldn't make noises and drop feathers and things like that.
How many years
Yeah.
of trade school do you have to go to be a pigeon wrangler?
I know, right?
Like, I'd
What's-
love to. I'd be a pigeon wrangler.
Well, which
I would
shorter?
for real Star Trek. If they made real Star Trek and asked me to chase the pigeons, I would do it.
Well, at least they didn't kill them, right? So that's good that they at least they coexisted with them.
Every time you get angry at new Star Trek, I feel a little bit of, fault. I
No.
feel like I owe you an apology because I am in Canada, about 35
It's not your
kilometers
fault.
away.
I don't blame you for secret hideouts sins. Don't worry.
But they do it in my time zone.
No,
And
I only
just-
blame Kurtzman. Don't worry. I don't even
Alright,
blame the
well.
people that are employed by him because they're just trying to feed their families and everything. I'm just mad at Kurtzman. He needs to go away.
All right. Well, then I'll call a guy.
I wanted to mention his excerpt.
Not like that, but
Allegedly. Allegedly.
just
I wanted to-
find another project for him and let him go. Color
He's
with
going to make the
crayons
new
somewhere.
Super Mario movie.
Oh God,
Who
really?
cares? No, what?
No,
what?
okay.
What if I took him off of Star Trek and threw him at Ocarina of Time?
No,
Would you be
know what?
angry or happy?
You know what? I would have to sacrifice my favorite video game of my childhood because I really want him away from Star Trek. But
Well, if it was
would be
up-
terrible.
If it was up to me, I would just give him Joust.
Okay, there you go. Let him have Joust. That's a better
You can
idea.
have Joust. All right. There's an Atari joke for you, kids.
And welcome to the chat to
Son of a red shirt.
Hello, son of a red
He's
shirt.
just waiting for his radiation therapy. I hope it all goes very well for you.
Oh, good luck,
He
sir.
will.
And Gary Lockwood starred in both The Republic of Star Trek and 2001 Space Odyssey. That man's place in the Hall of Science Fiction greatness is assured. Apparently, got to know Gene on The Lieutenant.
Yes, that's how he was
Absolutely.
recommended for Star Trek. Yes.
And he can't type anymore because his autocorrect. Well, you did great. You typed wonderfully. So I hope you have a great day and radiation isn't too bad. We all love you here and have a good day.
I
Well,
wanted to
and
mention it. I wanted to mention an
Sorry.
excerpt here, if possible.
Please.
is the scene here with them shooting on the set of the planet. Shooting began on Monday, July 19th, 1965. As usual, Justman showed up an hour early
Mhm.
on the first day, bleary-eyed from lack of sleep and totally hyper, flying on nerves alone. This time, past experience had the pigeons under control. They still lived in the rafters, but were kept busy in the daytime eating food and assigned pigeon wranglers scattered outside the stage. And something else I forgot too. They had to have They had to have toilet monitors because people were flushing the toilets and you could hear them during the shot. So they had to have toilet monitors standing outside the bathroom so people wouldn't use them while they were filming.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes total
That is
sense because
hilarious. I'm imagining like the dramatic scenes, and it's like, do you like what you see? Absolute power, corrupting absolute.
And then one innocent person walking out and everybody staring at them.
What? What did
Well,
I
what did I do?
do?
What did I do? What?
and,
All right, everyone back to one.
With it only a 7-day schedule, no flushing noises would ruin takes and slow down the filming. Nevertheless, again, Murphy's Law was not to be denied. Bob Justman says, "We've been shooting for days and falling further and further behind schedule, just as I feared. One morning, after an overnight move to our next stage, it was time for the first shot. I looked at Jimmy Gladstone. He nodded. I announced, 'Quiet, please. This will be a take. Roll it. Speed, marker, action.' Buzz, buzz, buzz. It was a case of deja vu all over again. This time it was killer bees on the set. 'What the hell is that?' Bob demanded. Director James Goldstone, he was much more impatient than Bob Butler. 'Don't ask.' 'Yeah, Bob, what the hell is that?' joked Bill Shatner. He stopped joking when an avenging bee swooped down and stung our new starship captain on the eyelid.
Oh my
Luck-
god.
Luckily, it was Friday, so we had a whole weekend for the swelling to diminish. But Bill's face was still puffy, and we had to shoot around him on Monday and film him from behind.
wow.
Sally Kellerman was stung too, but not on the face, so it didn't show. Luckily, all her shots that day were done standing. Even though the sting must have hurt, to her credit, she never complained. Not even when she sat down. So I guess that tells us where she was stung. But Goldstone complained. He turned to me and muttered, 'Bob, she's doing it again.' And then to her, 'Sally, what the hell are you doing with your hands?' 'Oh, nothing.' But it wasn't nothing. It was something. Sally had gone into her protective mode. For a reason that it seemed only I could fathom at first, namely embarrassment. She was very uncomfortable wearing the Starfleet uniform of velour tunic, boots, and tight black pants. The reason wasn't the tunic and it wasn't the boots, it was the pants. They were very form-fitting and clung to her legs and torso, especially in the area of her nether regions. So every time we got it ready to do a take, she'd fold her hands in front of her nether region and assume what I called her crotch cover posture. Jim walked
Hmm.
over to her and said softly, 'Keep your hands at your side, Sally, okay?' And she said, 'Okay.' He came back, 'Okay, Bob. Okay, roll them. Speed, markers, action.' Sally folded her hands. 'Cut.' Jim looked at me. I shrugged. Jim told the prop man to give her a space clipboard prop. She held it in front of her. It solved Goldstone's problem and covered Sally's problem as well. And whenever possible, Jimmy filmed her from the waist up.
I love that because she had a problem and they solved it in an amicable way. Very nice.
And she wasn't aggressive. I mean, you could tell she was not a big star at the time, and she went through a lot. I mean, the lenses, the stung by the bee, the embarrassment. Yeah, I give her credit for that. Sorry, go ahead, continue, everybody.
Sure. And Sort of Poop is Cuber in the chat says, by the end of filming, the pigeons were morbidly obese and the sets were knee deep. Pigeon
But yeah,
poop.
imagine cleaning up those sets if you were the one having to sweep them up.
The Kellerman bee? And
Kellerman bee.
that's my impression of a toilet flushing. I apologize. I
Yes,
watched
it was
Married with
great.
Children as a child.
So did I. So, yes.
That was a set that apparently Desilu had just recently acquired because they were basically required to buy a bunch of property. So that set was also the one that I think that was the same set used all the way up through the Star Trek series, right? TNG, DS9, all that, right? I heard the Alien Planet was always the same set because they talked about it being very hot. Planet Hell, I think, is what the actors called it.
And
Sorry, go ahead.
this is a painting by Albert Whitlock, and
Yes, Albert
apparently
Whitlock.
he was one of the great visual effects artists of the time.
Yes,
Having
he did
done
Psycho among many other classics. Forbidden Planet, many others. Yes.
Forbidden Planet too. I love the paintings on Forbidden Planet.
Yes, Albert Whitlock was a legend.
Yeah, it says the book says Whitlock's paintings conveyed what the filmmakers could not: an eerie alien landscape that would have been impossible or impossibly expensive to duplicate on a studio lot. And to actually illustrate how tight of a budget they had on Star Trek, they would send half-joking memos to each other about authorizing $2.50 haircuts. And from the book, actually, it looked like Bob Dressman just gave his own $5 bill to cover the haircuts. And here, Nerd Pearl Lifeform already left. So his favorite communications officer here, Alden, who we never see again after this episode. But then again, we also don't see Kelso either for obvious
Right.
reasons.
Well, Kelso's murdered.
Yeah.
Well, what's
And,
great too is when he puts that box that he had in his hands into the console, it activates immediately, showing modular, and that was not well known back then. Back then, you had to physically hook everything up. Only now do we have components that are modular, where you plug them in and they immediately work.
It fits like a glove.
Yep.
Well, and it does fit like a glove. But here's again characterization of actors, of characters that is more done by either the dialogue or the delivery of Bill. Whenever Kirk talks to Kelso over the communicator, like through the gooseneck, it's always Mr. Kelso. But whenever anybody talks to Mr. Kelso in person, it's always Lee. He is everyone's best friend. And when he dies, like, this is the first time. I've never met this guy before. I met him, like 40 minutes ago? Less than. And I'm just like, Lee Kelso, you son of a bitch. You're awesome. You do everything. You get everything done. And then, effing Gary.
Maybe they don't
then
use
Gary.
first names over the intercom because the intercom is widely heard by everybody, so they try not to keep it personal. Maybe.
Well,
More
which
official.
is
That's a good point.
fair, which is absolutely fair. But what in terms of the camaraderie between Kirk and his crew, like, hey Lee, you gonna be able to make a self-destruct for this entire planet?
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Thank
guess.
you. Yeah,
All
with
right,
the fuel
we'll do
bin.
it.
Right.
That's
I'll
right.
use it. I'll use this hole that just happens to be here in this table.
It's called a fuel bin.
Well, it's better than Fizzbin, I suppose.
Okay, so here, Mitchell is set up in the very first brig that we see in the series.
Hmm.
Mitchell tries to break through the force field, but in doing so, he drains his strength. So there he is trying to get through.
Oh my God, what a frightening image that is. Oh, and look at him. Help.
And for a very brief moment, he reverts back to Gary Mitchell, the actual Gary Mitchell. Just for a very brief moment. But then he returns. And he's continuing to gain strength exponentially, like Sulo said earlier.
Yeah, the only problem is they don't match color, but it looks like that's maybe temporary replacements.
So do they get like some painting tape and then just spray paint it or something?
You can see exactly what they are. They're mixing boards.
Yeah, and on the Enterprise, the new panels installed and the engines are nearly repaired, and
Yep.
Scotty is pleased.
He looks hungover there.
I think he looks tired, like he's been working long days.
That's
Yeah.
better. That I like that better.
Yeah, like he's beleaguered and he's been trying to get this done.
Yes. Like a psychic person has been terrorizing the ship.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Speaking of a psychot person, Kelso
Oh no.
has finished wiring the power bin so that they could destroy the entire valley, which he's instructed to do if Mitchell escapes. However, Gary has other plans and murders him with a cable.
Ugh. Oh.
And having done so, Mitchell is now able to escape the brig, But before he does that, he brings in Denner, revealing that she has also been affected by the charge from earlier, and so now she just took a little bit longer to change, and so
And
now she's
apparently,
going
yeah.
to be
Now that
like
she's
him.
right, exactly. But now, for some reason, her now showing these powers makes her infatuated with him, or in partnership with him. Or
Well,
would
they
you
also
say
spent
she always was?
a lot of time in sickbay talking a lot that we didn't
That's what
get to
I
see.
thought.
She
Right.
was
That's what I.
late too.
Yeah,
She was
that's what I
late to the
thought.
briefing
Yes.
because she was studying him.
Yeah. See, I was thinking when they beamed down, I was thinking Kirk would at some point say, "No, I don't want her on
Mhm.
here. She's got too much conflict of interest."
Yeah, well, perhaps he didn't see her when they were talking about poetry earlier.
No, he didn't see
Well,
that part. But she seems
but
to always to
also,
be defending him over.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Go ahead.
well, it seems to be, and I agree with you to a certain extent, Pop, in terms of yes, there is a conflict of interest. She's obviously expressed that she thinks that Mitchell could be an evolutionary step, and she has already said that evolutionary step is superior. Um, I think that there's some sort of connection with the magnetic field that made them both silver-eyed psychics, but or telekinetics assists. Um,
ESP or yeah.
yeah, espers, if for lack of a better term. But yeah, there is something about them sort of getting into cahoots where it's like, well, they are together going to be the next step in evolution, almost like a darker motion picture.
Yeah,
Anyway,
very much
rambling.
darker. No, not rambling. That was a great point.
So anyway, now there are two of them.
Now there are two of them. And now that there are two of them, I guess they decide at this point. There's Dr. Piper.
Notice
Mark.
Doctor gives Jim a pill to wake him up.
Yeah.
Supposedly, right?
I thought that was weird considering we had already established hypersprays, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, not only that though, I know Jill didn't catch it in her stills, but that uh, Kirk picks up that rifle and he cocks it. Apparently, those three cylinders revolve. They rotate.
Yeah,
So I'm guessing he goes from stun to kill,
I would assume so as well.
Interesting.
or from medium to high, or whatever. He cranked it up because he rotates and you can hear the click of that barrel as he turns it.
I
It'd be
saw
a
that
nice
too. I
rocket
thought it was
have.
really cool. I thought it was really cool.
It's like, okay, I'm done. I'm enough of this. And it's like he sets it in probably high.
Well, and I didn't mention at all because we've seen a couple of the phasers so far, but we're still dealing with the phasers from
In the
the
cage.
cage.
Yes.
So it's like the garden hose nozzle phaser.
50s. I like 50s retro.
And
Like
so
Forbidden
with
Planet.
this, the phaser rifle, the only time you'll see it in the original series,
Yes, this particular one, you're correct.
and it also has the garden hose sort of pump handle as well, and a handle at the back, and then the try setting, you know,
hmm
stun, kill, destroy, I suppose. And yeah, no, it's great. What a prop.
It just goes to show that it's great, though, that even during these first few episodes, they were still tweaking the equipment,
Yeah,
which was really nice. Yes. They
I
weren't done
agree.
yet. And we
And
haven't
they
even seen a Jeffries tube yet. So, yeah, we're
No, we
still.
haven't.
Nope.
That we will.
Here
And
we go
Mitchell.
on the good old Planet Hell, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they called it Planet Hell, the actors.
All right. Mitchell shows Denner how he can alter the landscape somehow uh, this so that it is now brimming with life instead of being totally barren. We're done here at this point, pretending he's only gaining power here and there. Mitchell has transcended to complete godlike powers to be able to call forth life like this so quickly. He says, "To be like God, to have the power to make the world anything you want it to be."
I do enjoy because there is a moment when he's describing the power that he has, and he says, You will soon know, and hungry it is a groovy rifle. But he says to Liz, can I call her Liz? Says to
Yes.
Liz, you'll know what it is to be a god. And then he sort of cocks his head and he's like, blasphemy? How about I create something for you? He doesn't say, how about I create? But he does, he acknowledges the fact. And again, it's one of those things that is of its time in television, is that if
True.
you're going to throw around the word God all willy-nilly, you would have to acknowledge that it is blasphemous.
Yeah, exactly. And he does.
It's interesting. It is interesting because it does sort of frame the argument. It's like, and again, it's kind of goofy and it's Shatnery, but when he's like, "Don't you see it? Absolute power corrupting absolutely." It like the storytelling in this episode is actually rather clever. I don't know if you've
And then he
but
says, "Let there be food."
yeah,
So you're right. That's exactly what's happening. And hello in the chat to Cardinal Sin. How you
ahoy.
going? And Snorty says, "For a god, Gary seems to like some really wacky looking plants."
Those are the ones you smoke, not the ones you eat.
You know, I'm
Just
glad you
kidding.
got there first.
Yes. And yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, if you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it.
Well, I mean, and in reality, she'd be like, "Okay, you're a god, and you still want me to live out in the middle of nowhere." Okay.
Meanwhile,
stealthily in the background.
I also want to give a big shout out to Shatner's hair in this episode. I love it.
Yes, it's been great.
It's a little tusslable. It gets shorter as in the next episode, but here it's just like, oh, you adorable Quebecer.
Yeah, I think his hair kind of lived under the law of diminishing returns.
I don't believe that for a second. I don't know what happened with Shatner's hair, and at this point, I'm afraid to ask.
Now, do you guys agree? Can you go back that one shot, Jill? That Gary's character is getting older, like suddenly he's getting grayer and grayer.
You're right. I think maybe could it be the lighting?
That's what I was wondering.
No.
But he didn't look this old when he was on the bridge earlier. So it's almost like this power is like maybe is it age advancing? I don't know.
I had a theory that the power that was imbued upon Mitchell was something that was taxing upon his system, like in terms of his just physicality. And so, yeah, I thought it was aging him more.
Like burning a candle at both ends.
Kind of, yeah.
Right. Do you think that if he were allowed to continue to be a god, that he actually would have a shortened lifespan because of mixing his human frailties with those powers?
I think his powers would have overwhelmed his human frailty. Or overwhelmed his human physicality, not his frailty, because as Captain Kirk says, it's always going to be
It would
there.
have been interesting to see if he transcended his body at that point or
Right.
just were destroyed.
Right.
Turned
they don't
into
mention-
like an evil Organian.
And does God necessarily mean you're an immortal? No.
Also, welcome to the panel, Cardinal Sin. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Gil!
So all of these powers don't necessarily mean he's immortal.
We've never met, sir. It's a pleasure. Thank you for coming aboard. Sharing a table with me.
Wait a minute, he's
I know
muted.
everyone
Yeah.
likes Jill, but to come and hang out with me, that's great. Because I'm a narcissist. Moving on.
Gil is muted right now, but I'm sure he'll be with us soon. I don't know what the oh,
Sorry
hey,
about
there
that.
you are.
Hello there.
Ahoy.
I think definitely as Gary gets grayer and grayer as the show goes on, it's implicit that this is destroying him.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But don't
No,
you think
his
he's going
hair
to
is getting more
evolve
gray.
beyond it?
Yeah, Hunger Boy thinks he would have transmogrified into an energy being, or
transfer
either that,
his
or he'd
existence
just
into-
die.
Right, or transfer his existence into something else or someone else.
I don't know.
Well,
It's kind
great
of a
minds.
toss up. It's how the audience interprets it.
Hunger Boy.
And
Mhm.
I definitely interpreted it as he's not going to live very long to enjoy these godlike powers.
Yeah, that's what's really great about this episode. You could think about what would have happened if Kirk hadn't won.
Hmm.
Snorpoopus Cuber says there's apparently a website out there in the
That
Huh?
examines the issue of Shatner's toupee at great length.
that examines the issue of Shatner's toupee greatly. It's not for the faint of heart.
No,
that
but you
sounds,
know what?
That sounds like
But
fun.
by the
The
time
one-
he did T.J. Hooker, it was a full-on rug.
But the
Shag.
thing that really weirds me out is in Star Trek 4, you see him swimming and like maybe plugs, I guess.
Oh no,
But-
they were sophisticated enough to have hair that would stick. They had glue.
And you know, just straight up implants. So
That's what I mean by plugs. Yeah.
yeah,
Or he could have had implants, but so
you
you
have
have to
your-
usually
your-
do that.
you have your
you-
plug surgically installed, and then your toupee ties into that.
Well, anyway, I've always admired. I've always wanted Shatner hair, and whether it's real or not, I don't care. I want to go where he's buying it.
It reminds me of the story that Will Wheaton told that he was on the soundstage for Star Trek: The Next Generation when they were shooting Star Trek V, which of course William Shatner was directing, and he gathered up the nerve to go talk to him on the other set, which was, just adjacent to where they were shooting, and Shatner was a total dick to him. He said something like, "Aren't you the one that plays that boy on the other show?" Which by that point he claimed he had never watched.
But also remember, Will Wheaton is very sensitive.
What's that?
Also remember that Will Wheaton is extremely sensitive to.
Well,
And he likes
especially at that
attention.
age. At that
He
time,
likes
he
it,
was.
but he
yeah.
also likes attention, though. He'll say anything to get attention.
But he took
Possible,
a lot
too.
of glee in telling the story,
Mhm.
and it wasn't associated with,
Yeah, it kind of
Um,
bothers me when people have a lot of fun just talking bad about other people. And,
Well, he was talking about
and it could have
bad.
been truth. It could have been
he
the
was
truth.
talking badly about the way William Shatner treated him.
I'm not saying it could be true, it could be not true, but it-
Well, it
let them.
reminds me, if I may, I met Angelique Pettyjohn. She's the
Without
one that was
question.
she was the blonde, greenish hair in Gamesters of Triskelion, where they were on that
Oh,
planet.
nice.
They had to fight, and Angelique Pettyjohn was in that silver outfit.
Mhm.
And I met her at a convention. And by the way, she looked exactly like she did in the show. She even wore that outfit. And when they asked her, one of the people in the audience asked her about any memories about meeting William Shatner. This is my point of where I don't know if you can honestly believe what you always hear. I think maybe it's for attention. But they asked her, they said, do you have any memories of meeting William Shatner for that episode? And she said, well, we were supposed to do our scene where we kissed, and I just couldn't get into it. I was very nervous, and it just didn't look right on camera, and we were shooting it over and over. And Bill was trying to break the ice, and we were trying to laugh and things like that.
Mhm.
And according to her, he grabbed her crotch to loosen it up, or to
What?
loosen her up, or whatever.
That
And
was
she
a
said, well,
poor
that's what-
choice of phrase.
But
Wow.
that's what she said. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
And even then, I remember. Now she's just saying that for attention. I mean, would he really do that?
Well,
But that was
just-
her. According to her, that was her memory of William Shatner.
Yeah.
Just to finish my point,
maybe.
about-
Sorry about that,
um,
Jill.
about what Will Wheaton said about Shatner was that he kind of came back over to the Next Generation set, and he was crying because his feelings had been
Oh,
hurt,
poor kid.
by Captain Kirk, who he
Right.
admired greatly, and the guy who plays Riker came up to him and asked him what was wrong,
Mhm.
and he told him what had happened, and he said, "Don't worry about Shatner. He's balder than old Baldy over here," pointing to Patrick
Nice.
Stewart. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Jonathan Frakes, who was
Yeah, how did-
comforting Will Wheaton after Will Wheaton,
How did Patrick Stewart take that?
William Shatner.
Well,
He
Patrick
wasn't
Stewart
in
knows
earshot.
he's bald.
He wasn't within earshot.
Well, I know he knows he's bald, but usually if you say that around a bald person, they don't usually tend to like it.
Well, and see, it's kind of a weird penchant of mine. Is like, I think the true question is, who do I like better, Shatner or Frakes? Now, I love Shatner because I'm
Shatner,
Canadian,
easily.
and he's Kirk. But there is going to come a day when we're going to lose another ambassador to Star Trek, and that's going to be Shatner. And he is in his 90s. Oh, and hot diggity damn, he is a good 90-year-old.
Yeah, he doesn't look 90
He doesn't
No, he
whatsoever.
sound
doesn't
like
act
it
No.
either.
90.
His
No.
memory's there. He's very agile. He moves around fine. I mean,
Shatner for president.
mine is as sharp as a tack.
He's
Yes.
still riding his horses.
He's
as far
still
as I know.
riding his horses.
I wanted to
But-
share a quick memory, if possible, too, as I know a lot of us think, well, William Shatner, Captain Kirk, it's almost are they one and the same? I saw William Shatner doing an interview
No.
on late night talk show back in the 80s,
Uh,
and someone asked him. They said, "So, how much are you like Captain Kirk? Like, are you a good fighter?" And William Shatner said exactly this. He was at a carnival on the bumper cars, and he got in a scuffle with a couple teenagers, and they beat his butt. He said that I thought it was Captain Kirk. I tried to fight like Captain Kirk, but they kicked my butt.
well, the running and putting 2 feet in the chest is
Right,
not
double
something you should
fisting on the
do.
back.
Yeah, the axe handle punch. No.
Right. Imagine what they're thinking. Hey, we're kicking Captain Kirk's ass.
But when we do eventually, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but live life like you're gonna die because you're gonna. When Shatner does go, I think that my sort of ambassador for Star Trek is going to be Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, for me, there will be none. There's nobody close. The rest of them are gone.
Yeah, I don't know who the elder statesman of Trek would be at that point, but
I'm fond of TOS. I don't see anybody else. The rest
Well,
are
you know,
replaced.
maybe it'll be Takei.
He's kind of soured, at least for me. It's too bad he put his politics before his career.
Well, and that's
you
the
know,
thing. It's late
that's happening
stage.
to a growing number of stars, and it's also being asked of them to, or maybe mandatory to, put that kind of stuff in their Twitter because, the old demographic that classic television before streaming was trying to court was 18 to 24-year-olds, as they have what is thought of as the highest amount of disposable income. They buy most of the records and music and, in this case, physical media, stuff like that.
I just can't see like Takei and Counselor Troy, whatever her name is, the things they've
Marina
said.
Sirtis?
The things they've
show
said.
some respect.
The things they've said, I can't see them being coerced to do things. I doubt that was against their will, is what I'm saying.
You can have Jonathan Frakes, Scotty. I will take Dwight Schultz.
Oh, you know what? Well, look, and you know what? I don't, and I love Dwight Schultz as well, but I also don't want to dismiss LeVar Burton.
Who's Dwight Schultz? Sorry, guys.
That's a really good point.
He played Reginald Barkley.
Barkley. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I grew up watching Reading Rainbow, so yeah.
If there is a force of positivity in the galaxy, his name
More or
is
less.
LeVar Burton.
He's all right.
And Ricardo says it's true. I don't not worried about it, but it does likely. I would say Picard may go before Kirk. He's much more frail.
Yeah,
Actually,
right.
He looks more frail.
He looks way older.
I've seen photographs and footage of him.
Frail.
I've seen photographs and footage of him with his wife, who's like half his age, walking around L.A. and he looks like he's really active and doing fine. In the show Picard, he acts like a 10-year-old, a man that's 10 years older than he is, very frail, kind of losing it. But in real life, if you've seen any footage of him at a convention, for instance, he's laughing and, not having any trouble getting to his seat or from his seat. So I think.
Do you think that's what he'll do in the next season? You think he'll act like the regular Picard, not the old frail one?
I really don't know, and I really don't care. But
that'll be an interesting choice if they do that. How they're going to?
Well, if you guys want to subscribe to the Phantasmagorium show. At some point, I'm sure we will do the remaining captain's Deadpool, at which point we will discuss which captain of which starship from each episode, or each series, pardon me, when they will die. And
The
you will
only
be
problem
shocked to
is
know that Shatner is third.
the only problem is Avery Brooks probably has the longest lifespan of any of the original captains.
Yeah.
But he really wants nothing to do with it. I guess he goes
Good
to
for him.
conventions, but
I respect his privacy.
Has he gone on to
Yeah.
other things?
I have heard him say that he doesn't like when conventions treat the fans like cattle.
and
Yeah.
also Avery Brooks' wife had to convince him to go on Deep Space Nine in the first place. He very nearly turned it down.
I'm very happy he did too. He did.
But Scotty, I
respect-
like what you were saying about the remaining captain's pool, and that'll
Yeah.
be a good show to.
Well,
to
it'll be so
attend.
morbid. You can't do that. I'm joking. You
Yeah,
can't sit there and say which
90%
person is
of
going
the-
to die first. You
Yeah,
can't
90%
do
of the
that.
podcast.
I thought you were
Scotty
trying to make a
announces are all-
segue back to Jill's show. So
Anyway, yes, no. Meanwhile, back on Delta Vega.
Back on Delta Vega, Kirk pleads
Right.
with Denner to help him against Gary, to find the part of her who is still human when Kirk asks the best question of the episode, of which we already know the answer. What will Mitchell learn in getting there? Will he know what to do with his power? Will he acquire the wisdom? And we already know that no, Gary does not have that wisdom. And as said in the episode, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Mitchell jokes about compassion instead of having it for all living things. I love that the message of this episode is that the foibles and frailties of humanity are such that we generally do not make, compassionate or righteous gods. And that's a concept that could be explored even further if you think you can find such a human who could do it. But then you encounter that other conundrum of being a god, that no matter the good intentions, such power can still lead to destruction.
I think it also speaks to the fact that we, even then, were growing technologically so quickly in the period after World War II, for example, until the modern day. But certainly at that point, we were growing technologically so much more quickly than our ability to be socially conscious and using that technology. I think
That's a good
that's
point.
also part of what this episode was trying to say.
That's incredible. That's a good perspective to have, because that was definitely something that was on everybody's minds at that time.
I agree
our
with you,
technology
Gap After Dark.
outstrips our social, compassion.
Yes, hello to Gap After Dark.
Yes, Gap After Dark. I agree with you about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. They're the only ones. And I wanted to bring up something. When they filmed this episode, I don't think they thought the cage would be, or they may have thought the cage would be broadcast at that point. I don't know if it's been rejected or not, but that rock formation behind them is obviously a redress from the cage.
Yes,
yeah,
Dave.
as is the phaser rifle, which
Oh, yeah, that was
this
from
is
the cage,
the
too.
only episode in which it appeared.
Yes, but that looks like the same rock formation, just slightly redressed, which is fine.
So now Kirk has not yet defeated a computer, but we get hints of that ability here when he appeals to her intelligence and her area of expertise. He asks her to remember her psychiatrist training, to remember that what is human in Gary will all come out as his power grows. Another great Kirk quote that tells us we have the right captain this time is here. He says, "You were a psychiatrist once. You know the ugly, savage things we all keep buried, that none of us dare expose. But he'll dare. Who's to stop him? He doesn't need us to care. Be a psychiatrist for 1 minute longer. What do you see happening to him? What's your prognosis, doctor?"
Oh, it's so
What's
well
your
delivered.
prognosis?
Prognosis, doctor.
And she does listen to him. She stops and ponders it, which I thought was really nice.
Yes.
She's not totally corrupt yet.
And also, I hate to, more Shatner fillet. But
Well,
Like
it's his introduction. That's what we're here for.
This is one of those things. Like when I watch this episode, is part of the reason why I love Star Trek Five. Is when he just casually steps and says, "What does God need with a starship?" Because this guy, he has experience from the first episode with gods. Don't pretend to be a god.
Well,
Right.
and unfortunately, the series, as outlined in the series Bible by Roddenberry, was a society of humanistic principles rather than religious ones.
Yes.
And so Roddenberry said several times on the record that he considered Star Trek Five to be non-canon.
Yes.
For
Well,
lots of
he was
reasons.
upset because he thought William Shatner stole the idea from him. He had been trying to write that script and push
Oh
it
yeah,
into
it
for a
was
long
a
time.
rejected script from the
Paramount.
original series.
Yeah, over and over.
I like Doomcock's solution is that the only things that are real are the parts on Yosemite, and the rest are dream, Shatner's dream.
Well,
It
row
is a way
your
to get
boat,
through the
Jill.
movie.
Exactly.
But I think it's interesting. Well, also another movie that Gene said was non-canon was Wrath of Khan.
And
He
I don't
said
think many
Wrath of
people
Khan was
agree with that.
non-canon.
He hated it. He thought it was too
All a dream.
military.
Oh yeah, well it was kind of a submarine show, but
But just if you're going to say that Gene Roddenberry didn't like Star Trek Five, well, join the club, except for
Sure.
me. And then, but also Gene Roddenberry did not like The Wrath of Khan. So
yeah,
it's
actually
like,
there were a lot of
really?
things. You're right. There were a lot of things that he said were non.
I mean, did he like any of the movies except one?
He even broke his own canon from time to time.
I think that the last, because he died just after
He did see it though. He did see.
he saw Star Trek 6. He
Yeah,
saw
he
the,
did see
the
Star
Undiscovered
Trek 6.
Country.
But he was
and
almost blind at that point, so he was mostly listening.
Fair enough. Either way, he hated it.
Star Trek 6?
Yeah, he
Did he
hated
say he
it.
hated it? In the
He said it because it was
biography,
too
he just kind of
militaristic.
didn't-
He thought it was
okay.
too militaristic.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
I mean, but Starfleet is military. But anyway,
Pseudo-military, and if you can define that, I'll be your best friend. Hey, wait, we're
Oh,
already
man.
best friends.
Oh
Damn it.
yeah, that's right. Okay, but I'm still gonna try to understand that anyway. I'll get back
Fair
to
enough.
you.
Well, I mean, obviously, the Enterprise's first best destiny is as a vessel of exploration. But
Agreed.
if people are going to bring the war to you, you've got to use them to defend yourselves
Of course.
and the Federation.
Of
That's
course.
right.
And there are episodes that you will get into, and they'll discuss that sort of not anonymity, autonomous nature of the Starfleet captain. Starfleet. What? I want those sneakers.
Starfleet.
All into the night. So anyway, Gary's back. And we shoot him with a laser, and no, it does nothing.
Yeah, it's completely ineffective.
And nothing shakes. Notice there's no vibration, no earthquake. All right, go ahead.
Are these the updated effects? I take it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, these are the update. I am going to switch to the classic effects, but I have all of my physical media digitized onto my server, and for some reason I failed to capture the original effects. But when I get the original effects, I will start showing those.
Right on.
No hurry. Take your time.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Hey, look how
I
I'm
was just
standing
busy.
directly underneath this rather precariously balanced rock.
Oh, and hello in the chat to Dalek451. I wanted to join the stream, but I completely forgot. That's okay, Dalek. You're always welcome anytime
Good
you
to
want to
see
make
you,
a
Dalek.
cameo.
Yes.
Hey, Dalek.
Yeah, you're always
Greetings,
welcome.
Dalek 451.
Turn Poopa says, think the only ones he didn't hate were Star Trek 1 and maybe Star Trek 4.
I didn't hear anything about Star Trek 4. I'd have to
Yeah,
look it up.
that would make sense. That's my favorite, so of course. Gene
Mine too.
likes
Scotty,
it.
did you get this understanding of what he hated from books or where?
That's a good question.
They were sort of history of Star Trek books that I've read. I can't
Mhm.
cite them specifically because
That's
when I
fine.
was in my heyday of learning about the production of Star Trek, it was probably in the mid to late 90s. I haven't read them in a while.
90% of the books Scotty's read are about Star Trek.
Any of these
Well-
books, like the sort of tell-all by Nichelle Nichols and
Oh no, it would have been, you know what? I probably, if I'm remembering these from anywhere, they're probably from Star Trek Memories and Star Trek Movie Memories by William
Mhm.
Shatner.
Okay.
And then
Nice.
also cross-referenced with I Am Spock. I never
And
read
I
I Am
Am
Not Spock.
Yeah.
I've never read
And
I'm
then-
Not Spock either.
And then also Beam Me Up Scotty, the authorized autobiography
Oh, I still
of
want to read
James
that one.
Doohan.
Yeah.
And I think I read George Takei's book as well. But at a certain point, when you're reading the history of the same thing from so many different perspectives, it all just sort of amalgamates into like just like an ancestral history.
It's kind of like the unreliable narrator trope.
I've heard
Everybody's
about that.
talking about the same event, but from different points of view.
Yeah,
Rashomon
right,
was the
exactly.
first film that used the unreliable narrator, and generally, as a screenwriter, I eschew using that trope
Fair enough.
because usually, not always, but usually, it's not very well executed. Akira Kurosawa, who did it first, I think did it best. But yeah, I mean, if you're reading all of these, biographies of the people that were
Actors.
Yes, it's
in-
very difficult to perceive the truth. And when we're constructing the actual history, it's very important to cross-check as much things as possible.
correct.
But I like it from the different perspectives, and it's not
Yes.
necessarily like what memory is not evidence,
Mhm.
but it
Right.
is a construction of what happened from different perspectives, and I don't dismiss it. Do I
Right.
think that it is
I don't
100%
dismiss it either.
accurate?
Right.
No, I don't. Just
But it
the
is
same
important
way.
for consideration.
It
It
is.
is important for consideration, but what my biggest problem is that based on that argument, based on
Mhm.
that lack of specific evidence, why in the name of Sweet Georgia Brown is James Kirk's middle initial R?
Yeah,
because they just hadn't decided it was Tiberius yet.
Maybe
Right.
Oh,
they
you
thought
let
it was,
that go. You let
maybe they thought it
that
was
go.
Roy.
yeah, we were talking
Well, it was
about this
early
last
on in the
night.
series, and they hadn't put that in the Bible. Also, one thing that I've heard about this episode is that Gary, although he was best friends with Kirk, didn't know his middle name, and so he just put the wrong initial.
That's
on
what
it.
I was thinking. Gary constructs a burial plot for Captain Kirk and the height of his ultra confidence that he's going to defeat him. But Gary shows that he doesn't even know his friend's middle name because he gets his middle name wrong. So that it's possible that he just gets it wrong, that we get an
But-
R instead of a T. Even if it is also true, the show doesn't know that it's a T either.
Yeah.
And also remember mentioned in the episode The Changeling with Nomad. Nomad mistook Kirk for Roy Kirk. R could mean Roy. Maybe
Right.
a mistake there.
Oh, wow.
James
Oh.
Roy
Yeah, I
Kirk.
never thought of that. That's cool.
That's also interesting.
Right,
That's
because they
really-
remember in The Changeling they said Roy Kirk.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
when I think Spock realized that that Nomad had gotten it wrong, and then pulled Captain Kirk aside to tell him that.
Yeah. Later on in the series, of course, we learn his middle initial is T, but we don't learn that his middle name is Tiberius until the animated series.
Which makes it canon, among
Yes,
other things. Yes.
Of course.
That's right.
Which
Of
we
course.
will learn later on Pop Culture Curator's channel on Monday at 7. Not this
Oh,
particular
what happens
Monday. I don't know
there?
when.
What happens on Pop Culture Curator's channel at 7 on Mondays?
We review the animated series. And we've
Huzzah.
reviewed 2. And we have 20 more to go.
Yes, we're on episode 3 next Monday.
Well, hurrah! Count me in.
One of
Yeah,
our
you're more
planets
than
is
welcome
missing.
to join. And Gary confirms and reinforces Kirk's fears when he says, "Morals are for me, not God's." A
When he
God,
says what? Morals are for me.
not God's.
Oh, okay.
You know, I was just thinking in that episode, The Changeling, wasn't Roy Kirk's first name Jackson?
I believe so.
Interesting, because that's the same initials, JRK.
Yeah.
What's jerk?
Kirk is a jerk.
Yeah,
We'll see that
that'll be
Kirk is a
we'll see.
jerk.
Yeah, coming on my stream, we will cover that.
yeah, that'll be an animated series episode. And so Gary is a god, but still driven by human frailty. Do you like what you see? Says Kirk
I mean, he
Liz.
says he's a god,
to
but
Elizabeth.
I think that, he has powers that we, puny earthlings might call godlike, but I don't think that he's a deity so much as he is a super powered human.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I think that's the whole point of Star Trek is that you see these aliens, whether they're influenced by some kind of alien force, that they can have the powers that are godlike, but they're not actually gods.
Yeah.
And then Mitchell forces Kirk into a prostrate prayer position, and this is how far
He's
his ship is.
genuflecting, I believe.
Prostate?
Prostrate.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think that's what I said. I don't know.
Close
Find out
enough.
later. Anyway,
Oh my God. I could make so many jokes about prostates, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
okay, this is how
I
far
was
his
hoping Pop
hubris has
Culture
taken him.
Curator wasn't going to either, but
Finally, this combination of Kirk's logical words and Mitchell's actions convinces Denner to fire against Mitchell, and he and Kirk fight. And that happens. Yeah, she fires at him, and he fires at her.
and this is actually the very first use of force lightning I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good call.
Well, Lost in Space used it before this, the robot.
Wow. And so then after that, Kirk gets into a fight with Mitchell.
And we get the very first Star Trek action stuntman.
Yeah, and the stuntman who played...
That is not William Shatner.
No, I was going to bring it up. These two stuntmen, the one stuntman who played Gary Mitchell's character is Hal Needham, who later on went on to be one of the greatest stuntmen in Hollywood, and he also directed Smokey and the Bandit.
All righty then.
Damn.
And
Titty
if you'll
twister.
notice in these stills, when you can see Gary's eyes, they're not silver.
Well,
Obviously,
I'll allow it.
He's
I'll
taking
allow it.
advantage of, Gary's weakness to try to defeat him, and they're silver again.
Well, they show them return to silver. That's how Kirk was able to fight him, is because he had temporarily lost his power.
Right.
But now, as Kirk was getting ready to hit him with the rock, he regained the power back and stopped him. So
Yeah.
that does make sense continuity-wise. And there's the first ripped shirt.
Captain Kirk with the shirt ripped clean off. Captain Kirk with the shirt ripped clean off.
Nice.
Captain Kirk with the skirt.
Now, if I can just be a little.
No, that's perfect. Good job.
I want to be a little sort of sexually liquid here. The situation that we have now is that because of Kirk's shirt being ripped, Kirk has, as we'll see when he calls the Enterprise,
Beefcake.
chest hair. Next up on Star Trek, you see Captain Kirk with his shirt off. Dude is waxed.
Hmm.
It's just been one of those things that I'm like, all right, I guess. Body hair was a bad thing.
I think I heard that Gene wanted them to not have body hair.
I heard that too.
Amazing.
Gene Roddenberry didn't like the body hair. I heard that as well.
We are so further evolved. We have no war. We have taken away all disease and body hair.
And body hair. Everyone has a Brazilian. That's how good things are on Earth.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Gary lifts a rock.
And then a rock falls on him.
Yeah, we fall. He goes into the perfectly placed mortuary, I guess.
Pit, grave,
Yeah, the grave he
resting
Mausoleum.
place.
the grave he made for Kirk is
Bit
now
like a
his
lid.
resting place.
Well, and he
The
spelled his
irony
own
is
name wrong.
palpable.
Yeah, his name is not James R. Kirk, it's Gary Mitchell.
Oh man, I
I
gotta
was
change
wondering.
the headstone. But
I was
I'm
wondering if
dead.
I could read an excerpt about the end of the filming of this
Oh,
scene.
sure, go ahead.
Okay, this is referring to how the first pilot was rejected by the studio. And it says production of the first pilot did nothing to disprove the old guard's lack of confidence in Solo and his interlopers. In fact, it only made things worse. Realistically, the first pilot, massively complex and futuristic, wasn't a fair test. On the other hand, Where No Man Has Gone Before was a fair test. It was as the hoped for series would be, a 1 hour science fiction action adventure rather than science fiction fantasy. It would have been a doable complement of optical effects and a talented group of actors. Decided that there was the all important learning experience from the first pilot. So, Where No Man was not only a pilot to sell a series to NBC, it was a demonstrable proof of Desilu's old guard that the interlopers could put its money where their mouths were. The original 9 day shooting schedule had played on the old guard's fears. They say 9, I'll damn sure be 10, maybe even 11. Solo had prevailed upon Justman to cut the schedule down to 7 days. Despite director Jim Goldstone's detailed preparation and efficient shooting style, despite Bob Justman's strong hand with the cast and crew, despite the support and expertise provided by Desilu's unit manager Jim Paisley, whose main responsibility was to watch over the shooting schedule and how Desilu's money was spent, and despite the efforts of all the others concerned, the second pilot fell further and further behind schedule. Instead of wrapping up at the conclusion of the 7th day of shooting, the company was still 2 full days behind. The break came during the 8th day of principal photography. Goldstone, Justman, and the crew faced the challenge and really did the impossible. They managed to pack 2 days of work into one. The pilot finished in 8 days plus 1 day of pickup shots and inserts, a total of 9 days as Justman had originally scheduled. Late in the evening of that last principal photography day, Wednesday, July 27th, 1965, everyone was fighting the clock to avoid getting into another payday for the cast and crew. The scene was Shatner and Lockwood confronting each other in a fight to the death. A portion of the stage had been converted into a rocky terrain covered by sand. However, with everyone fighting fatigue, each take would cause the loose sand to scatter over the camera dolly tracks, causing further delays. Justman and Solo, seeing the problems, grabbed brooms and resolutely swept the scattered sand from the dolly track after each shot. Suddenly, they noticed another broom was in the act. They looked up and into the equally resolute face of Lucille Ball. As she determinedly swept away, brandishing her broom, Lucy approached Goldstone. What do I have to do to get you to finish? Then she looked back at Solo and Justman and smiled. What I won't do to get the rap party started. So that's kind of
It's
cool, huh?
interesting, yeah. They definitely wanted more action and found the initial pilot to be too cerebral.
And I think that yeah, the first episode of Star Trek, The Cage, the one that they first shot, was extremely hard science fiction and dealt with really complex topics, and it had enough action for me, but I guess not enough for the
Well,
studio.
it was a challenge because they basically handed the first handful of scripts to the studio and said, "Okay, these are the first shows we'd like to do," and they thought it was impossible. They thought, "Well, these guys will never make this show," so they chose originally the Cage as the first test because they said if they could do any of these episodes, they could do the Cage because the Cage was the most difficult. And then when they did complete the Cage, that's one of the reasons why Lucy greenlit the series because they really doubted they could do all of what they claimed they could do. But it was still too cerebral once NBC saw it. That part is still true.
Yeah,
This is probably
is
something that everybody here shares, both on the panel and in the chat. But I find myself thinking often about what would have happened if they'd greenlit that first pilot and made the series based on that.
It would have been canceled after 6
Yeah,
episodes.
yeah, we kind of covered
probably.
that. We kind of covered that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes.
No. I wouldn't dismiss it with we've always kind of covered, or we've already covered that. I would say that I really like the Cage, and I really think Jeffrey
Me too.
Hunter is an engaging captain. I think that the difference, and it is what makes me enjoy comparing the Cage and Where No Man Has Gone Before, is the characterization. Like, it's kind of a dour episode, The Cage. It's kind of a downer. Like,
Mhm.
you go into a situation and these people are captured and you're supposed to engage with them, but the captain is also dealing with post-traumatic stress or whatever, the shell shock
Right,
Yeah.
from losing someone in the previous mission that you don't get to see.
right.
And
3 crewmen.
it starts off on a downer, whereas this is, oh my God, this guy has a problem, meaning Captain Kirk, this guy, sorry for being disrespectful. And it's, Captain Kirk he's got a thing and it's going to be really tough to do it. And
Mhm.
Spock shows up and says, you know what? You either have to drop him off and leave him alone
Or
or
kill him.
kill him.
Or kill him. Yeah.
And Kirk is like, no. And Spock says, you know what? The last guy who had to deal with this, he probably took too long. And Kirk is like, fine, we'll drop him
Right,
off.
right. No, Kirk
From
has the
Charlie
compassion,
X.
but he also has the logic. He has both.
There's a proactive nature to Kirk that you didn't get from Pike. I'm not saying that Jeffrey Hunter wasn't capable of it, and I'm not saying it wasn't something that Pike does. Of course, if you want to reference Strange New Worlds, that is
No,
your pleasure.
no.
Not
Well,
you.
he was just written that way.
But that's
Right.
how he
If there
was
would have been
written.
more episodes, we never know what he could have done. He may have had a more humorous
Agreed.
side. We never
Agreed.
know.
And
But
here's an
I
interesting
just think Kirk
insight.
is more affable. I think he's more affable.
Yes, agreed.
Here's an interesting insight. We had a show the other day on my channel with Jason Brock and Chris Gore of Film Threat, and we were talking about Logan's Run, and I mentioned
Nice.
that William F. Nolan ended up sitting next to me while we were watching The Intruder, the first movie where Shatner, it was his first leading role. And all the way through both that and the documentary that we saw afterward, Bill Nolan was kind of bending over and whispering little secrets into my ear, which was a lot of fun and very funny. And he was a very cool guy. But one thing that he said was that in The Intruder, he starts out being kind of even keeled, and then as the movie continues, he gets more and more irate, or he's trying to convince these townspeople that the integration of black and white students is bad.
Oh,
And he's basically
right. This
portraying a racist.
movie. I
Yeah.
remember this movie. I saw the trailer for it and I was like, oh, there's no way.
It's a great film. But
Wow.
what William F. Nolan was saying is that when it came time to do Star Trek, he felt like Shatner was much more even keeled, even from the very first episode. That he didn't really vary the character very much, other than in certain situations, but that it was he sort of from the outset he had the character nailed.
Yeah, he did. And that's very clear in this episode. When I watch this, it doesn't even feel like a pilot because this is Captain Kirk, and he definitely feels the way he should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning.
Which goes to show that casting was so well done. He was a perfect fit for the role.
He was.
And in the end of this episode, Kirk notes the deaths of Mitchell and Denner to be both having done their duty because Mitchell didn't ask to become what he did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He wanted to make sure that the record reflected that they had performed above and beyond the call of duty.
Right, died
And given
in the
their
line of duty.
lives
Yeah.
in the line of duty. And I think that this is a fun echo that is referenced in the motion picture, where it's like, no, don't list them as dead, in reference to Captain Decker and Lieutenant Ilea.
Oh,
Them
the
as
motion picture
missing.
where
They're
Nomad has gone before.
list them as missing, and I liked that where Kirk does give the due to his, crew.
Maybe they also do that for their families, so it leaves it open a little hope. It's not so final
There
or
are no
negative.
pensions in the 23rd century.
Yeah, they're not going to tell the families that hey, he turned into a bad guy. I had to I had to kill him with a
Had
rock.
to kill him with a rock, yeah.
They're not going to say
Captain's
that.
log, stardate 1313.8. Gary Mitchell was an asshole. Send this to his parents.
Right. Basically, right. If there is a pension in the future, they don't want him to lose that.
And
Too much? Sorry.
and that's the amazing second pilot of Star Trek, which was accepted, where the cage was rejected.
Here in this particular still, Jill, you can see that the men's tunics hid a zipper down the side.
Oh yeah, you're right. I see it now. And
Yeah, the
this
zippers
episode,
all over.
like the cage, it had to do with telepathy. But this is our first episode with a godlike alien, and somehow the electrical charge in the force field gives Gary these godlike powers. We never really learn about the alien or the alien force from which this force emanates from. We only get to see how this mysterious transfer of power changes Mitchell from Starfleet officer to a corrupt, overpowered, and basically a jerk. He sees himself above everyone else, and no one else matters. The universe is now a game with which he is the master, and all else are puppets or playthings. It is a very eerie episode, and even scary to think what could have happened if Gary had gotten his way. Maybe my only real criticism would be that they didn't send out perimeter warnings for all the ships to avoid this region of the galaxy, or even better, construct a way to demolish the effects of the purple force field, which seems to create gods in anyone with high enough ESP scores. But I really do love this episode, and I realize that my addendums are only from having watched Star Trek for so long to know what they would have done if they'd made this later. So I still give this episode an A. And it is really well done and entertaining, which means that I'll probably be upgrading the cage from the A to an A plus because I think it was a better story. But here, Kirk is the better captain.
Yes, by far.
So okay, so what are your ratings and thoughts on this episode?
I know me, I would give it an A plus because, like the cage, I think it was an uphill climb and struggle to get these first few episodes filmed, put together, and get the right cast to get that lightning in a bottle. So I'm giving them higher praise than usual because I think it was a masterful stroke. Everything they're doing. Every time we notice the little trimmings and changes here and there, everything's for the better. And now I get an alarm.
Does anyone know what the shooting order or the production order of this one was?
It's the second.
Okay.
They filmed the cage, and then Where No Man Has Gone Before is the second.
No,
pilot.
I meant after the order had come back from the studio that they wanted another pilot. Is this the one that they shot?
I mentioned it earlier. Yes, I had the date. I'd have to look it up again.
Okay.
And another thing too, at the end of this episode, apparently William Ware Thice, the guy who did the costumes, I guess they said, we like the idea, but go back and tweak it again.
Mm-hmm.
And Carla Albanese says, "I enjoyed the Star Trek Continues take on this episode."
I don't know what that is.
Me neither.
Star Trek Continues. It's our fan production.
Yeah, yes. I know that. I don't know what their take on this episode is.
No, I don't know that either. I don't know the reference to this.
Snortapoopa says, "All I can say about my friend is that he rocked too soon.
Too soon.
Dramatic.
The only Star Trek Continues episode I saw was the first one.
And rock it man.
The only Star Trek Continues episode I saw was the first one, which was a sequel to Apollo.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was great.
Although I think probably the best one is the one written by Mark Scott Zachary about Sulu's daughter.
Okay. Yeah, I need to watch the rest of those episodes one day. Carla Albanese says, "I give it a B+. Very well done. Great story. But a couple of character problems."
Yeah, still a little fine-tuning necessary.
So what do you score this episode, Scotty?
B plus.
Great.
And the reason that it's a B plus and not an A minus is because it's missing two of my favorite things.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Uhura and Dr. McCoy.
True story, Jill. You know me
And
better than
Scotty.
myself.
Scotty's
No,
No,
Scotty's
Scotty
in
was
there.
here.
Scotty's
Scotty's here.
there.
Yeah,
Which
he?
is,
Scotty's
you
here.
know what? Usually a Scotty would give it an A to go, but no, I'm sorry. The thing that really, they do combine Kirk and McCoy into one character for this episode, because Kirk's the one who gives the jibes about, oh, that bad blood. And so, but I do enjoy DeForest Kelly. Like
I
he's my
don't
favorite.
remember
He's my favorite character in Star Trek,
James
like flat
Doohan
out.
being in this
Yeah,
episode.
it's a good thing Gene Roddenberry kept pushing for Kelly. I'm so glad he did.
And so, what about
And
you, Cardinal Sin? What did you?
I answered the poll
Sorry,
as A
and
to
so
A
please, Scotty.
plus.
Okay, yeah, me too.
well, you're wrong. How do you feel about being wrong?
That's not the first time. Probably won't be the last.
Fair enough. Good answer, sir.
And
Takes a big man to admit he's wrong. I'm 6'3.5".
Carlo Albanese gives.
You would beat the crap out of me. My God, you probably have an arm. You got reach.
Yeah, this is true. This is probably true.
Oh my, Jill, don't take his side.
What? Carlo Albanese says, "Damn it, Jim! I was on shore leave." So there's McCoy. There. McCoy was on shore leave. There's your answer, Scotty, for where he was.
And Dr. Piper died of a heart attack the next day.
Yep.
Although I think there is some, there are novels that say they sort of reference Dr. Piper the same way that people reference Dr. Pulaski.
Do they, work out how and why it was changed to Bones?
I don't know. I do not.
I don't know either. I don't know how.
But
that
again,
works
it's
either.
apocrypha. It's all beta canon.
Sure. Beta canon. I like that.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Are you just flipping through your book to find more things to talk about?
No. Actually, at this point, I couldn't be more grateful for you guys joining me today for this review. And Pop Culture Curator, could you tell us about your channel?
Yes, Jill and I are reviewing currently the animated series on Mondays. And we just covered the first 2 episodes. We will be on episode number 3 next week. And I hope if any of you are interested in the animated series of Star Trek, please join us. You are most welcome. I'll have an open panel just like this show.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jill, for the opportunity of having me here. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to say hello to everybody in the chat. There's a lot of people I didn't get a chance to say hello to. But
and thank you so much for bringing all of that reference material. That was interesting to listen to.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
And it was a great addition.
Interesting. That's what I'm hoping to bring. I think people will walk away from our stream learning a little more than they did from some of the other previous streams.
Sure, and that's always the goal. To bring something new, because I know it's been done 5 million times.
Right,
But,
and the more we learn about Lucille Ball, the better, right?
yeah. And Cardinal Sin, thanks for making a great cameo here at the end of our stream. Could you tell us more about your channel?
Sure. My channel is youtube.com/Cardinal Sin. On Wednesdays, I have a paranormal/UFO show called Into the Fringe. I do Masters of the Genre on Mondays, generally when I have a guest. And I do lots of other shows. And I figured out just a little while before I came on why I'm not monetized.
Oh.
I looked up Hawk for a third party, HAAWK for a third party, and the first thing that popped up was that it was a fake organization that has made millions of dollars by copyright noticing perfectly licensed content.
Yeah, because your content is all completely original, so I was completely shocked.
Yeah,
That you could
and there is a petition on change.org to get rid of Hawk for a third party. And I was interested to see that neither YouTube nor Google was available for comment. They didn't provide any comment. So I've been bashing my head against this wall for, it seems like 6
Right.
months.
No, I
And
know.
finally figured it
It's
out.
ridiculous.
So the petition, if anyone would care to sign it, is on my Twitter,
Okay.
which is just at Gil Bavel, GILBAVEL. So I would appreciate your help in getting these bastards banned from YouTube.
Oh, how are they doing this? How do they have this kind of power? It seems
Well,
outrageous.
the way it's described on change.org is that they basically don't care who makes a copyright notice or claim on somebody else. They just assume it's on the up and up. And if you're caught claiming that someone stole your IP, which has happened to me many times, you can lose your YouTube channel. And every time I've had to defend my IP from people that have basically stolen it and uploaded it, I've had to fill out this thing that says that I understand that I could, lose my YouTube privileges and or even my channel.
That's
when,
a terrible rule that YouTube has.
when it
You can't
goes
protect
through,
yourself.
when it goes through and these, people have to take down my IP, they don't suffer any consequences.
No.
Which is
And then they can just put it back up again anyway.
Yeah, and they do. And it's totally bass-backward. So
agreed.
Having learned about this and called attention to it, I would appreciate everyone's help. Anyone that's willing to sign the petition. You don't have to go through very much. It's just you sign it, and I think give them your email address so that they can contact you once the petition has reached 1,000 signatures. Right now it's at 775, I think.
Okay. Yeah, everybody go and sign that. So that, yeah, I'll look into that later. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear from Scotty R37 and his Phantasmagorium channel.
Well, and first things first, like absolutely go and check out Cardinal Sin and check out that tweet, the Twitter handle.
Yeah, we want him to be monetized. It's like, it's ridiculous that he hasn't been at this point.
I agree.
So I would say, support Cardinal Sin. I've heard a lot about you, and again, it is a pleasure to share a table with you.
And
yes, yes. I don't know if you saw it, but in Gene Roddenberry's birthday, I did mention how Gene Roddenberry is the reason why I started talking on YouTube, but that you were the first to ask me to
absolutely.
Speak on YouTube.
So I thank you for giving the world Jill, Gil.
It's my pleasure.
Oh, great. So now can I talk about me now that I've been
talk about
for
you,
a second?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That was wonderful.
No, I have the Phantasmagorium show with me and a bunch of friends, and we've done all the James Bond movies. If you'd like to hear commentary and analysis on that, and we're currently going through a retrospective, in no particular order, of the filmography of Quentin Tarantino, both directed and not. It's confusing to some, but pleasurable to others. And soon enough, there is going to be a conversation on that channel in regards to Quantum Leap. Jill and I are going to be talking about each episode of Quantum Leap.
Yes, on Thursdays starting September 8th, coincidentally Star Trek Day. Yeah. But at least it's starring Scott Bakula, who plays Captain Archer.
And as I've said, I really like people. Yeah. I really like people who are named Scott. So, and then also, I know you're only supposed to do 3 plugs per show, but I do. Well, no, it's symmetric. There's something about it. 3. Do it in threes. But I have to do one more, and that is our good friends over at Cinema Gulp. If you have not seen their vast catalog of extraordinary content, you are denying yourself some joy. And I would say go check out Cinema Gulp. That's it. I'm done. Can I go
That
pee
quit
now?
the Quentin
Yeah,
Tarantino filmography.
go
Does
ahead.
that cover his stint on Golden Girls?
Oh no, when he played Elvis, it was the best.
Well, Jill, you're
Yeah.
a busy bee.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm having fun. Really enjoying this hobby. I've been on YouTube for a year now, a year and a couple days. So yeah, my genesis began on Gene Roddenberry's birthday, because you had your midnight to midnight after midnight, so it was already his birthday, and then I was on Clobby's stream for his 100th birthday. So,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
cool.
and that was that began, and I became more and more active ever since. And I'd like to thank everybody who's lurking or going to watch this on the replay. I get a few people who do watch it later, and so thank you guys for watching later. And also thanks to everybody in the chat. Everybody's amazing chats, just engaging and intelligent and funny. And thank you, Snortopoopas Cuber. You're one of those funny ones, very smart and funny, and I love the things you come up with.
And shout out to Hungry Boy.
Quite unique. And yes, Hungry Boy is great. A
Carlo.
great artist and a great friend.
Yes. Very
And-
cool guy.
And
The
thank
chat is the reason that we're here. We couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, no, it would be so sad without the chat. I love the chat. And Mega Cropper, I'm so glad that he was here. He is here. and Bird of Prey 5 was also briefly here. Kapla. And
Hail Bird of Prey 5.
Wait, it's Tuesday. He won't have a bed life today, but he might have something. He's always streaming whenever he wants to stream. You just check out his channel and make sure you're subscribed to him. He's one of my favorite Trekkies. And
I
Bird of
forgot.
Prey?
Yeah.
While I was plugging my channel, I forgot to mention there will probably be some serious unboxings soon.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Now that I've got my video capability back.
Unboxing.
We'll be doing some more unboxings.
Well,
Very
Cardinal,
cool.
do you have any do you have Funko Pops?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I do have a lot of figurines, and now I'm
ships.
Spacing the name of the company that just went bankrupt.
Eagle Moss.
Eagle Moss.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of Eagle Moss ships
man.
and stuff like that.
God,
I'd love to hang out with you and show you my Playmates Star Trek toys while you show me your Eagle Moss models.
It's a date.
Yay.
Yeah, that could be fun. And thank you also, Pleasant Valley.
That was the least enthusiastic. That would be fun. Yes, boys, play with your toys.
I buy books. I don't buy toys, but I love to see everybody else's models and toys and
Fair
things.
enough.
That's why one of my favorite channels is Marketing with the C, because he has a veritable museum of a collection of comic book and Star Trek stuff. And
so
I'm always
awesome to
impressed
see.
every time. I don't know why. I just love watching other people have these things.
I just get so jealous whenever I see anybody else's Deep Space Nine, and I'm like, I want a Terok Nor.
Oh, then you're jealous of our good friend here, Lord Aran Feliciano, who his channel is King Dolphin TV, and he has a Deep Space Nine model.
Nice.
And
By the way,
I am jealous.
Jill, you should be watching your mailbox. Your Klingon Bird of Prey.
Right, I forgot I won that.
Is on its way, and I put some extra little goodies in there for you.
Oh, thank you. Can't wait. Yeah, because I won trivia on Sunday. Just
Boy,
barely.
did you ever.
Just barely.
Set
Against
the
Tiger
record.
Stripes. I thought Tiger Stripes was going to win. Pleasant Valley Picker CA, was also here in the chat. Thank you, and you were also on the. He was also on the panel, so thank you so much for stopping by for as long as you could before you had to go to work. Real life always gets in the way of fun, doesn't it? And we already said thank you to Hungry Boy, so thank you again, Hungry Boy. He's a great guy.
Oh, where did the guy go? You know, the guy.
Okay.
You know, the guy. There was a guy at the beginning, and I was like, oh, he's here, but I don't like him.
Oh, Mega Cropper.
Mega Cropper! And I want to give a big shout out to Mega Cropper. I apologize if I drove you away.
Oh,
I
okay.
really,
I
really enjoy the antagonism. It's just one of my favorite things.
It's
Yeah,
just
right.
a friendly sort of
A ribbing.
yeah. For
I didn't
his
mean
pleasure.
anything. Ribbing for his pleasure. I don't actually know what
Exactly.
Mega's
Anyway.
identification. Sorry, yeah, no, moving on.
Yeah,
Never
I don't.
mind.
I think he's a guy. And Matt G was also here. Thank you for being here, Matt G. And he always brings pizza.
I think Gorilla stopped by there for a minute.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I completely missed seeing Edge of Time here.
Edge of Time.
So Edge of Time was here. I
Hello,
don't know
Edge
for
of
how
Time.
long or if he's lurking, but he did say
Hello
hi.
there.
Edge of Time and I have shared a battlefield.
Oh yes, I remember that. That did not go well.
No.
Actually, it went well, and then it didn't.
True.
Then the Nerdporial Lifeform was also here. He's also another great Trekkie out there who has some really great content and an awesome channel. So go check his out too.
Well, and exactly, this is where Nerdporial does point out the move in the 3D chess, three-dimensional chessboard, where Spock says his logical move should have been the rook.
Yeah. And the Comic Relief Crusader.
Hail to the Comic Relief Crusader.
He also has a channel. So go check his out. And I don't know when he'll be streaming again, but sometimes he'll have a Titillating Tuesday. So I don't know if I have one today. And also thank you to Gorilla, who also has a channel. And that's fun. He talks about
Hail
stuff.
Gorilla.
And thank you for being here, Carlo Albanese. You provided some really great chats too, as did everybody here in the chat.
Yes, ahoy, Carlo.
And Son of a Red Shirt, I hope everything goes well and you're comfortable and everything.
Yeah, good luck.
This is probably a very distasteful joke, but if your radiation therapy goes well, beep once for yes, and if it didn't go well, beep twice for no.
Yeah, that's pretty distasteful.
Not appropriate.
No,
I just was going for some Pike.
And if it didn't go well at all, no beep is necessary.
All right, then I'm an ace.
Just a bit. But I do look forward to the menagerie when we get to it. It'll be the only two-parter.
I apologize. I apologize for my insensitivity.
You know, I think that Son of a Red Shirt has a very good
sense of humor.
Sense of humor.
I hope so.
That's not what I was looking for, but yeah, closer.
No, but I like Son of a Red Shirt. I'm not trying to be cruel.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just being inappropriate. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
Let's get away as far away.
Yeah. Well, if only I had the right response for you. See,
Let's edit all of this out in post.
I need.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll fix it in post.
The thing is that you come up with these things that I don't have the right response to. So I'm going to work on that.
No, don't do that because I'm the abnormal one.
That's what makes an inappropriate comment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, this is
and thanks
not
for
for
being
children.
here in the chat. And yeah, I do appreciate things that make my content not for children, because if it was just me, YouTube might degrade me. So I'm glad that I get people here to make it not for children.
So you're okay with my casual swearing?
Yes, but make it casual. Yeah.
Hey, Gil gets it.
And thank you for being here in the chat and on the panel, Cardinal Sin. It was a great surprise to have you on. Very cool.
My pleasure.
And subscribe to Cardinal Sin if you haven't. For some weird reason you're subscribed to mine and not to his. That would be a weird anomaly. And
Well, not all of your subscribers go through me.
no, but a few. Like, for example, Gap After Dark, who is
Hail, Gap
I
After
am a
Dark.
mod for Cardinal Sin, and so is Gap After Dark.
Hail,
Hey, it's a
hail,
staff
gang
meeting.
all here.
And thank you to Dalek451. He expressed interest on being on the panel. He is always welcome. All he has to do is click that link whenever he wants to join. But,
I still haven't I haven't had an opportunity to finish that Doctor Who conversation that Dalek and I started.
You know, he started streaming again, so maybe you'll get a chance.
Hopefully.
Count me in. I'm American's greatest Whovian.
And I think that's all.
I'm just looking to learn.
I misspelled Cinema Gulp.
Yay! Cinema from
Cinephomago.
Cinemafa. Yeah, it's
You
fine.
it's okay. We get the idea.
Yeah, it's fine.
Boys with their toys. Yeah, exactly. I enjoy that.
It is a James. What? Sorry.
I enjoy seeing all of the things that you guys collect that I don't collect. I think it's
It
great.
is. You know, and it's weird though, because I go on some channels and I see people like unboxing or they're showing off their like hot toys and they're like
Right.
$400 action figures. Or, yeah. And I'm just like, oh my stars. That is like 3 months of car insurance. What are you
Don't
doing,
hate
you
me
crazy?
for my hot toys.
I will, you know what? I'm going to admire and be jealous, but I'm going to think in the back of my mind the entire time that you have too much money.
Or too much time on my hands, either way.
Either way, what do you got? We'll talk about
Well,
it later.
Yeah,
We'll have
yeah,
to wait
yeah.
and see.
That'll be
Yeah.
that's another stream. Catch
That's
them
right.
sometime with that. That'll be a Masters
We'll have
of the
a
Toys.
Star Trek sharing stream.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
no, but you're gonna have hot toys, and I'm gonna have Playmates from 1994.
That's okay.
And
Those are cool.
All right. Well, I
They
have a lot
are.
of them. Anyway,
You
I
started
probably,
collecting before I did.
well because
Okay.
I'm old.
And my alarm reminds me that I have responsibilities outside the wonderful world of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Let's
So-
move on.
So yeah. Oh, hello in the chat to Linrod. As I was saying hi to everybody in the chat, Linrod appears, and you're just a little late. You can always watch the replay and enjoy it. I hope it was good. And beat 3 times for STFU.
Shut
Yes.
the fuck up. Yes.
That was the response I should have had. See,
Yeah.
it's
Fuzzy
hard for me
logic.
to be mean to you, Scotty, but I'll learn. It's
Oh
just,
no, absolutely. There is a place to put me in, and I should be putting that place off.
I know,
Beep,
this
beep,
is what
beep.
I'm saying. And it's difficult for me, but I'll figure it out. I get processing error when I decide I need to say something mean to you, but I can't. But
Yeah,
we'll-
you
I'll
can.
figure
You'll
it out.
learn.
Okay. Shut the front door.
There you go. Oh no, it should be like that's enough, Commander, or something like that.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
That's
I don't know
enough,
how to do it
Commander.
yet. It's a work in progress. But
I
as
don't
you
even
say,
know.
as you continue to say more and more ridiculous things, eventually I'll be driven to figure something out.
Madness. Space. Madness.
Oh,
Yeah,
throw a
don't-
Ren and
don't-
Stimpy at me, and I'll go anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I figured I could wind you up with that.
Oh, okay. Wait a second. I got something for that actually.
Oh wow,
This just
Yeah.
in.
I thought you.
So what'll happen? That's just it. We don't know. Maybe something bad. Maybe something good.
Uh, is it
Precious.
wrong that I identify with Ren
I
very
love
much?
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, me too. No, I cut that for an Orville episode and just happened because I was talking about the time that Tala just pushes this button out of nowhere. But you haven't seen the episode yet, Scotty. Oh wait, yeah, you have mortality paradox. So she just pushes the button. Well, we don't know at that point that she is that godlike alien, just in disguise. So it's weird. It was weird to me that happened. and then it makes sense later when her true identity is revealed.
It is.
Yeah.
But
and also hello to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
And hello to Dad Man Walking. We're just closing up here, and Bird of Prey 5 is back to say goodbye.
Kapla.
And hello and kapla and all the greetings. And
Jolan True.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So
And
to
wait a minute. I got to get the
Okay,
trailer
what?
for next. I need to find the trailer for the next episode.
Okay,
So
you find the
give me a
trailer, and I'm
second
just gonna
here.
ask. I'm just gonna ask a quick question to the panel and the chat. Who is your favorite alien species of Star Trek?
Andorian.
Wow, that you didn't even have to think about it.
No.
Okay. I'm gonna go with. You know what? I don't know yet. I'm the one who asked, so I'm gonna wait a second.
I think I prefer Vulcan. They're smart, they're intelligent and strong.
I'm going to say that since all of my podcast names are Vulcan in origin, that probably my favorite species is Vulcan.
I'm gonna go with Trill.
But that I probably look better as an Andorian. And
Wow.
maneuver.
Jill, I don't know if this is appropriate, but now I'm just imagining you as like, what would Jill be like as a Bajoran? What would
A
she be like
Bajoran?
as a
Oh,
as a
She'd have a
Cardassian? What if
wrinkly
she was a
nose.
Trill?
Yeah.
Well, of course, it would be like she was sneezing. But
Jill
it's
the
just
Trill.
Jill the Klingon. What
I
if
don't
she
know if I
was
can
half
handle that many
Klingon?
personalities. I can barely handle this one. So
Well, fair enough. Good answer.
let's see.
No, but I think I would.
righty dighty.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
working
I would.
on.
I would Trill. No, we're just filling air here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
And so-
vamping.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And
You know, maybe
And
I'd be
Scotty?
an Orion slave girl. You don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. And Scotty, thank you for reminding me that we should be reviewing Where No Man Has Gone Before. You're absolutely correct. And from now on, I will not deviate from the order in which the Star Trek 365 book presents the episodes.
I
in
will not
production order.
deviate from the broadcast order.
Well, yes, okay. Yes, I am a robot sometimes. So thank you for noticing, Cardinal Sin. And
Syntax is important. Don't take it as a
is.
derogatory.
and according to the book, next week's episode is the Corbin maneuver. So I will take us out on that trailer shown here on YouTube. Hopefully, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna share it again because I'm not sure if I shared the audio.
Gotta get that sound.
And I gotta make sure I did that. So
Kapla,
Yes.
Bird of Prey. Bird of Prey likes Klingons.
So-
I should have figured.
yes, so of course, Bird of Prey's favorite is Klingons. He is a Klingon. And Hungry Boy's favorite is the Horta, and Lenrod's is Vulcans because he's also Vulcan.
I'm a
So-
big fan of Gum too.
Hungry Boy, I guess he also says for sexiness, Romulan chicks.
Nobody's saying Ferengi, I notice.
Well, they're vile little trolls.
Oh,
Yeah, they're our favorite species to hate on.
yeah, and they get developed best in Deep Space Nine. And I actually
Although,
forgot one more
if-
thing.
If you want something from a Ferengi, just rub their lobes. They'll give you
Mhm.
anything.
And make sure you know the rule act of acquisition 113.
So
Which one is that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Well, what's the first rule of acquisition?
I'm not going to tell you.
I'll tell you what the first rule of acquisition is.
Well,
Once
that's
you have
fine.
their money, never give it back.
Yes, that's correct. And I almost forgot to share the poll. The poll here for Where No Man Has Gone Before. We shared our scores. So the chat says 58% give it an A to A plus.
See, I was right.
So was I. And
Hot damn
I was
democracy.
talking to Scotty.
I am clueless when it comes to Star Trek. I don't know what I'm talking about.
at 33% say B minus to B plus.
Proud of you,
Yeah.
33%. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah. And 8% give C- to C+. But you do have a good reason. No McCoy, no Uhura and stuff.
You don't
So-
want to hang with the popular kids anyway.
Exactly. I'm in the smoke pit.
And now I can share the Cobra Maneuver trailer.
Delicious.
Yeah. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining me in the chat. And we'll see you
Bye-bye,
guys
everybody.
next time.
Peace.
Peace and
Bye.
long life.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us.
Captain's log, stardate 1512.2. The Enterprise and crew are held captive by a strange alien vessel.
Base of maneuvers, Mr. Sulu. Object changing direction too, sir. Keeps coming at us.
It's blocking the way.
Regretfully, your ship must be destroyed. We grant you 1 minute.
What are you all out of your minds? End of what? It's the end of everything. What are you, robots? Round up toy soldiers? Don't you know when you're dying?
No time for you, your theories, your quaint philosophies.
I intend to challenge your actions in my medical records. I'll state that I warned you about Bailey's condition. Now, there's no bluff.
Anytime you can bluff me, Doctor.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.